What's up, everybody? Aaron the Dog Guy here once again with another. This is not actually another. This is like no other show on the YouTube or anywhere else. I'm going to be breaking down the LFA today, Bellator 259, UFC Vegas 27. And before all of that, I'm joined by a newly minted UFC Featherweight prospect. He's 14-4. 24 years old, 6'1", and Mexican as they come. And I think that he will appreciate that intro.
Yeah.
Long time no see to Mr. Fernando Padilla. What up, my friend?
How are you?
Welcome to the big show of Aaron the Dog Show. First ever Aaron the Dog Show here. So congrats.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So if you weren't with us for our breakdown last week, we had Fernando join us along with Jacob Silva, not Jacob Rosales. So I'll get that out of the way right away. Both of you guys won. Jacob, unfortunately, didn't get the UFC contract, but Fernando, you did. You had a second-round elbow finish of Cameron Graves, 9-3 guy, 9-2 coming into the fight. Really dangerous guy. Also, apparently, the favorite in this fight. So, a little underdog. How was the fight for you overall? The whole process. Take me through it.
Thank God weight cuts are like a little bit easier right now. I don't kill myself that much on it. But other than that, everything was really good. I felt really good on the cage. I worked really hard for it, and I was ready. I knew I was ready for that. Inside the cage, I just went for it, I went for it.
that was insane. I have not seen those types of strikes out of you. Prior to this, I kind of had summed you up as grappling leaning MMA guy, but this seems to be changing these last few fights. What have you been working on over at Team Oyama, who obviously has a huge fight for Carla that we'll talk about a little later, but Team Oyama firing on all cylinders right now. Have you been working on kind of mostly the striking, or is it just working on everything and the striking's been there? It's just you've been getting the finishes otherwise.
Yeah, I like to fight, That's what I like to do. I like to really, like, if you see my first fights, like, it's really weird for me to do a takedown. Like, they usually take me down, they usually get submitted. But like, I always like to stand up, and I really feel that like I can deal with a lot of people there. But hey, this is MMA. This is not just boxing or not just kickboxing. That's the other thing. I need to start like showing again the other parts of my game. So everybody stay on track of that. But I came to the best gym for striking. I think in general, Coach Colin has been like a striking coach and like turning to MMA for a long time, and everything I know right now is because of them. Like, my striking got to this point because of them. Thank God.
Yeah, and right now we're entering, I think, kind of, it's interesting. I feel like countries and regions of fighters really go through spurts where it's like the momentum's with them, and we got like the Adrian Yanez right now who's shooting up the ranks at bantamweight. We've got, and then featherweight, we have the Mexican fighters coming kind of from all directions right now. Lupita Godinez is coming at strawweight right now. I've talked with her quite a bit. She was supposed to have a fight this weekend, just got postponed. But it's just the Mexican fighter never really went away. It's just interesting that as Diego's kind of exiting, one of the OGs of kind of Mexican fighting, and I think it has to be someone who I assume you looked up to as you started in this career. He's exiting, and then there's the prospects like you kind of entering the circle of MMA life. Kind of continues. Cain Velasquez, whatnot. The Mexican fighters have been coming and haven't stopped. Like, how much does that mean to you as a fighter, though, to be really go in there? And I mean, you aren't just you aren't just from Mexico. You are a Mexican fighter. What does that mean to you specifically? And especially when you do go for it, but this entire time your technique was there the entire time. You weren't falling over yourself with this elbow. You're completely within yourself and just followed through like just perfectly. What does it mean to you to be a Mexican fighter? How important is that to your kind of approach and everything? Or is that something I'm maybe adding to the narrative here a little too much?
No. I mean, I always fight like that. I think that's what people like the most about me. That like I'm always going forward, no matter what. Like I can get hit, I can get taken down, but like if I stand up, I'm still be on your face. Yeah. And I'm tired or not, like I'll be there. You know, I'll be there hitting you. I'll be there like fighting. So for me, I feel like that's the thing about being a Mexican fighter. Like be there, be relentless. Just try to break people with that pressure. Sometimes you need the technique, obviously, to get that pressure. You know, you cannot just be a wall in front of them. But I'm pretty much that, like that's how it is. You know, that like just the pressure, and the Mexican pressure is just different.
It's real. It's real.
Yeah, man.
It's real, man. And I can't really stress enough how excited I am to see you getting to UFC. I feel at a proper time. You have 18 fights as a pro, and some incredible experience against. Again, you know, I won't bring up Dan Ige every time I talk to you, but it's hard not to when we see where Dan Ige is specifically now. We just saw what Edson Barboza did last week to Shane Burgos. I mean, whether you think Edson beat Dan Ige or not, he barely did if he did. And what Dan Ige has been able to do in the division you're going to be entering, it has to really give you, you know, immediate hope. I know you're going to say you'll take on anybody immediately. When are you kind of looking to get back into action here? How are you doing body and condition wise coming off of this fight?
I mean, I honestly just like I'm ready to go again. I'm obviously resting right now, but I'm ready. Like I want to get back soon. You know, it's 2021.
So short notice would be on the table for you.
If they call me, like if they want me to fight like that, I told Dana I will fight whoever you want, whenever you want.
Did you get to talk to Dana?
Yeah. Thank God.
So that's awesome. First of all, thank God you were later in the card, because Dana must have had a fun night in Houston Saturday, because he made it to the fight card a little bit late. I was feeling terrible for some of the guys early on the card who thought they were fighting in front of Dana, and then they're like, "Yeah, Dana's not here yet." Like he showed up for Fernando Padilla.
It was nice. It was a crazy night, to be honest.
Awesome.
It was just amazing. I'm pretty sure all that is going to be on the looking for a show. I think so.
I'd say an standing elbow KO is a good way to guarantee you get a little bit of camera time on there, Fernando. We'll make sure to definitely blast that as soon as that's available.
Man,
what has this last 5 days been for? Like, or what has it been? 4 days? 4 days? Yeah. What's the last? Yeah, 3 days. What's the last 3 days? Yeah, 3 days. What's it been like for you? How many new friends do you have? How many new family members are coming out of the woodwork? How ready are you to take on those outside distractions? I know it's hard to say before they're really here, but I think for certain fighters, I look from an outside view, and I'm a little bit concerned as I ask that. Asking you, I'll be honest, I'm not as concerned about that, but you're going to have a ton of new friends. You're going to have a ton of new attention. I don't know your situation with your significant other or not significant other, and that's not, but these are all things that are what come with the UFC. How do you feel about those outside issues? Have you talked with teammates who've obviously probably dealt with this a little bit? What are your thoughts on that?
I have a really like Team Oyama in general, like all the people who I see being successful, they're the same type of people, like really low key people. They don't like to talk a lot about like them stuff, and I feel that helps me a lot too. they keep me on my head, on my like they keep me down on my feet. Like if you try to get a little bit airheaded right here, just being like, yeah, I'm this and that. Like there's 20 other fighters to hit you, like to kick your ass. So like,
Mhm.
don't do that.
It's just
uh,
not the place for the Sean O'Malley's of the world.
yeah, I mean, like
You don't have to call him out. I called him out. You're not calling out Sean
they're
O'Malley. Don't
going to
worry.
no, but like what I mean is just like they're going to make fun of you here, and I prefer to just live a normal life. The people making fun of me here in my gym all the time, so I don't want to be like the Hollywood either. I don't think that like that's the thing that I want to be. I don't like to be on my phone. Like I'm having trouble answering messages because it's just like
Mhm.
nah,
It's
you
not
know,
what
like
you're. Yeah, I have
and
social anxiety, so every time I'm on camera, I don't know what I'm doing it. So I'm just like, man, like, but I love talking to fighters. It's my
yeah.
favorite thing to do. I couldn't have more respect for what y'all do, honestly. And it's at any level. I love talking to people as they rise up. It's not just about the UFC to me, but it is pretty cool to see a lot of fighters I've talked to from the beginning now getting their shine. Brian Battle currently on Tough, working his way through the Ultimate Fighter. I haven't gotten to talk to him in 4 weeks, but because they're on complete lockdown in there. But now getting to see you, Fernando. I
Thank
mean,
you.
you look the part. I'll say that straight up. You fight the part. The experience, I think, is really tremendous. And Team Oyama, it's a team that I'd love to get to know more of because I have a huge amount of respect. What are your kind of thoughts, Carla Esparza? Are you close with her? Have you been able to kind of see how she's looking very sharp coming up against Zhao Nan, the Chinese fighter? This is essentially a title eliminator at 115. What are your kind of thoughts on her fight overall, if you have
Well,
any?
I cannot tell you a lot about like her camp because Carla is more for herself and the people like coach and her
Mm-hmm.
for game plans and stuff like that. And
Okay.
I respect that a lot. I feel that that's how she is and how she worked better.
Yeah.
Um, Other than that, what I can say, and I can like actually because this is my personal thoughts that I've been thinking for like weeks already or like a month. That is just she look in shape. Like it's incredible how Carla for being the oldest in the UFC here with us. Like I don't see her like just staying at one point. I always see her like doing better and more
Mm-hmm.
and trying new things.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people don't see that, but when you're in the gym and you're able to see all those things, like it's incredible how she always performed better for me and in personal she always looked better and I'm waiting for this fight. I know she's
Huge
going to
fight.
be great.
Yeah, it's a huge fight, and I've been definitely going back and forth on it. Who are your main training partners, particularly at this point? Do you have a few, or is it kind of how does it work over at Oyama for you?
We work with everyone. I'm like also the like I'm the tallest, so I train with the
Mhm.
with the big guys.
That's great.
But I'm also the skinny, so if there's no big guys, I can train with the small guys.
Hmm.
I help everyone from like Chito to Lewis to I mean Christian to heavyweights to whatever we have. You know, if somebody came, Frank Camacho, like all of them, like I'm just all around, and I
That's
like
huge
it.
for you. That's huge for you. That's got to
Yeah,
be huge for you because 145 has every type of fighter. It's got the strong hard hitters, the Josh Emmets eventually that you'll be up there against.
Mhm.
Even the Mike Grundys, these super powerful, wrestling type guys, and then they also got the guys like you as well. You've got to be one of the tallest guys in the division though coming in. So,
Pretty sure. I'm
and
pretty
you're
sure.
still not cutting the type of weight that a lot of these guys are cutting. Um, do you see yourself kind of eventually growing out of the 145 division, or is it hard to ever? Have you ever fought anywhere other than 145?
I try. I think my first pro fight was in 135. But
Oh,
I could. I think I'm pretty sure I couldn't make it. I was like a couple grams off, and I was already passing out.
yeah,
But it wasn't for a long for a lot. But that was the only time I tried 135.
yeah.
After that, we did 45 all the time in Mexico. And
That's
when I
great.
came here, I did 45. Coach asked me for a couple 55s, and that's what I did.
Hmm.
And I feel good, but I feel 145 was still it's still my division.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, every single guy who I see in the UFC, it's for a reason, right? It's for a reason. Every single guy, like from the youngest, when they like grow up, they go up. So
Yeah,
I
who
mean,
knows?
I'm
You're
still.
here. Yeah, you're in it for the long haul here. So it's like me asking you to predict in 10 years at UFC 512 what division you're going to be in is
Yeah,
kind of
love to
crazy
hear.
right now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. 3 divisions. You never know. All
You
right,
never know.
so I won't keep you too much longer here because I know that like it's been a crazy amount of time. The fact that you'd even be willing to come back on here for a second time in a week, that means a ton to me. It really, does show kind of the perspective that you have of, just knowing the people who like are in it for the right reasons and whatnot. And, just
I
perspective to me
mean,
is, yeah, perspective to me is everything, man. And keeping it simple. I run my own dog business as I'm doing all these fight breakdowns, and that's what I like my life to be. So it's very simple. I'm in Washington D.C., supposedly the busiest, craziest city in the world. Yet I'm happy as can be. I'm surrounded by 5 dogs right now. We got Boston Commons Bunny. She is one of the best in the game here. Yeah, absolutely special guest Fernando. She's a huge fan as well.
oh, thank you so much.
Padilla. Yeah,
You
so
guys going to
she gets it.
make me
Yeah, if
blush.
you got the Boston Commons stamp of approval, you are a fantastic human being. Boston Commons, she's killing it
Thank
out
you.
there. Eventually, the Dog and Bunny show will be up and at 'em as well. And we will have Fernando Padilla on as our first guest when we get it going as well.
Thank you
So,
guys.
yeah.
So
But
happy.
honestly, Fernando, I'm a huge fan of you. I'm a huge fan of your camp. Cheeto Vera, one of my all-time favorite fighters. So if you want to, go ahead and tell him Aaron the dog's waiting for his interview. I'm here, but no, I'm kidding, man. Like in all seriousness, like I will be definitely keeping an eye on you. I am going to be checking. I have a feeling you're going to be on a short notice. Come up here. I know you're always staying ready. Are you? You're probably taking off. Like, are you taking off even this week? Or are you back in the
Yeah,
gym?
yeah. Just a
Yeah,
little bit, maybe to
yeah,
eat. I like to
take off
eat.
a couple weeks, but I think after this, I think we're going to be seeing you in July. Maybe we can get you on that Conor McGregor Poirier card. Maybe as the opener. Let's go ahead and get some eyes on Padilla. Make sure no one's calling him Padilla. Like we did.
Please.
Yeah, but Padilla, people, Padilla. It's not hard. It's not. It's really a pretty normal Mexican name. Get some more Mexican friends, people, if you don't know how to say Fernando Padilla. But
Get to
honestly,
me.
man, like you always got a spot here. Anytime you want, just come on and chat with me. I'm always here for you.
I
I'm looking
appreciate it.
forward to seeing what's coming. 24-year-old Fernando Padilla, 6'1", 14-4 featherweight. And just one more for the people. The casuals call him Padilla. The real ones know, and we definitely know, man. I can't wait to be breaking down your fights. Your fight coming up very soon. You're going to be a huge fan favorite. So, yeah, man, just keep doing what you're doing, and
Let's go.
keep that shirt off. You don't need to be wearing the shirt. You work too hard. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, show me those clavicles. There we go, buddy. But as always, Fernando, you're just such a horrible guest. Very, very mean and very upset and hard to talk to. As always, man. Brother, have a great day. If you want to get some betting advice, I'm going to be on for the next 2-3 hours doing 34 fights. So let's go, man. But I had to talk to you. Congratulations on the contract. Congratulations on the first of many elbow KO wins. Cannot wait to see what's next for you. And we'll talk soon, brother. Have a great rest of your day, man.
I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Peace out, Fernando.
Bye.
All right. And that yo, I'm sorry that I cut you off. That was Fernando Padilla, ladies and gentlemen. What a fucking champion of an individual, man. Like I sent him a message right after his big win in Fury FC, which you can check out on Fight Pass. Obviously, if you're watching this, LFA is going to be on Fight Pass. And then we've got the Bellator breakdown we're doing, and then we've got our UFC breakdown. So thank you all for joining me. I am going to be attempting split screen mode. I have one monitor, so if I'm kind of focused on the screen, it is what it is, but we work with what we got. Aaron the dog is not going to miss a breakdown. My mom's getting married this weekend, so all three breakdowns get to be in one here. So I'll do my best to get timestamps up at least for when each breakdown starts. So after about 20 minutes, we are entering into the LFA breakdown section of our programming. LFA 108 now. It is Josh Fremd versus Gregory Rodriguez for the middleweight championship. They had a 4-fight middleweight championship Grand Prix to determine the champion of that. We know Gregory Rodriguez from the Contender Series. Josh Fremd is an LFA veteran at this point, has looked really good over there. I believe Josh Breezy also has had a few interviews with Josh Fremd. So Jeff definitely familiar with some of the Stooges. But let's go ahead and jump in. It's just going to be me today. Please, I will do my best to check comments. I will do my best to make this sensible and give you guys the best advice I can do, as always. But we are starting at the 170 division in the LFA 108. It's taking place Friday night at 9 o'clock on Fight Pass. Prelims are going to be on YouTube. We start out with Tyler Ray, 7-2 welterweight out of Sanford MMA, taking on 3-0 unranked Ernesto Ancona. I apologize for any names that I butcher as well. I'm doing the best I can. Ernesto Ancona, not a lot known about him at this point on Tapology. He is a 3-0. He has not fought since October of 2014. Before that, he fought in 2011. Before that, he fought in 2010. Combined record of his three opponents is 6-2. This one's, I'm going to keep them simple when I can keep them simple with this amount of fights to break down. But Tyler Ray, the Wolverine, we have a few Wolverines we're going to be breaking down on this card. But Tyler Ray is the first of the Wolverines we're breaking down. He is 6 foot tall. His head coach listed as Tyrone Spong, kickboxing legend. But he's more definitely known as a wrestler. Really good grappler. He is 7-2 currently. Lost a split decision to Steve Jones over in LFA. He's fought 5 fights now in LFA, 6 fights actually, as well as his first 3 of his pro. So 9 of his fights have been with the LFA in some form or another with Bellator. Overall, his wrestling is what gets him to the dance. He faced Austin Jones in his last fight, got a arm triangle very, very quickly, locked it up and sunk it in. It is where he's going to look to take this fight. He's very, very active. He's fought quite a bit. So taking on a guy named Ernesto, who has not fought since 2014, I think this is straight up being LFA does this from time to time. I think this is a squash match for Tyler Ray. I get that his opponent Ernesto is undefeated, but not fighting since 2014. Tyler Ray, really legitimate prospect in my opinion, and I expect to see him on the Contender Series relatively soon. Maybe one more win in the LFA over someone a little more legitimate than a 3-0 guy who's been off since 2014. Tyler Ray is a -400 favorite. I do think it's parlayable, and I do think it will grow quite a bit as well. But if you can get for 400 to 500, go ahead and parlay Tyler with all your bets tonight, because I think that he is, pretty safe favorite there. But I get it's an expensive price to pay. Next fight here is going to be at the bantamweight division, and we got a pro debut against a 5-6 guy. The pro debut is Bryce Meredith, fighting out of Wyoming. He is a 2-time NCAA national runner-up. wrestling out of Wyoming, a very good school. Wrestled at 141 pounds. So been fighting around the bantamweight division for some time now. Going up in his pro debut against Steve Merrill, the surgeon. Definitely an interesting looking fella, 31 years old. Has a very nice mustache. 5-6 record, 5'9", 72-inch reach. Fighting out of Featherweigth Martial Arts. I'm not familiar with that. Currently on a 4-fight losing streak. He has lost to guys like Yusuf Zalal, Jeff Jepson. So some decent guys, but he's got 1 win in his last 6 fights. He's been finished by body punches, darts, chokes. And so definitely seems susceptible to a KO. Was also knocked out in his only boxing bout. So I think that Bryce Meredith definitely can look to get a ground and pound finish if I had to predict. This is his pro debut. As far as I can see, there's no amateur experience either. But Bryce Meredith, he looks to be very athletic, looks to be the part, has the wrestling to fall back on if nothing else. Fighting Steve Merrill, who's 5-6 on a 4-fight losing streak. I gotta go with Bryce Meredith here, even in his debut. Bryce Meredith is now a minus 1,000 favorite. No, thank you. Plus 585 on Stephen Meredith. It's dog or pass here. It's his pro debut. He is primarily a wrestler, so I need to see a little bit more of his MMA game plan and acumen before I'm able to lay down 1,000 even on a guy like Steve Merrill. But Bryce Meredith should cruise here. I think that this is a card where a lot of favorites should look very good. Next fight here is at heavyweight. It seems like a lot of these heavyweights are very similar to Thomas Peterson, these kind of undefeated, bigger heavyweights. This is Thomas Peterson fighting out of Minnesota, 253 pounds, 4-0, fighting out of Spartan MMA, taking on 5-4 Richard Frosty Foster, 5-4 heavyweight, 36.5 years old, fighting at Yakima MMA. Not really familiar with that camp too much. 36 years old, which is just fine. He did lose the Sua Tuani back in 2018. He had another fight with Sua Tuani, which the results have not been reported yet from April. So that's very weird. Has a win over DJ Linderman, a decent kind of regional veteran. Lost to Rudy Skatharov, who is a pretty decent Bellator guy. Lost to Josh Copeland and Cris De La Rocha, also decent heavyweights. Basically, the guys he has wins over, other than DJ Linderman, have not heard of. Thomas Peterson, 4-0. I believe all of those fights have taken place in the LFA except for one, which took place back in Minnesota. He's gotten finishes by KO, punch KO in all 3 of those fights. However, those 3 fights are a 3-1, a 2-2, and a 1-1 guy. The 5-4 will be the best record he's faced. We've seen a couple times over the last few weeks where very, very highly touted heavyweight prospects have kind of crumbled. We saw it a few weeks ago as well. So I would just say bet with caution here. But I think Bryce Meredith at minus 1,000, much riskier than Thomas Peterson, minus 500. That's getting to kind of the edge of where I'd want to bet him. But again, I would parlay him with a few of the favorites I feel good about. So definitely parlaying him with Tyler Ray to start in probably a few more, which I'll get to here shortly. But I'd be cautious with this, but Thomas Peterson should be able to get another KO. Richard Foster, though, is, he's a tough guy, seems to have a gas tank, has gone to decision a lot of his wins, but he's been put away by strikes in 2 of his 4 losses as well. So I'll take Peterson to continue that trend and get the finish on Richard Foster Frosty. in a heavyweight bout. But that's our third fight here. Next fight here is at 115. Tiani Valley taking on Catherine Paprocki. Catherine Paprocki was supposed to take on Jania Gooden a few weeks ago on LFA. Unfortunately, Jania had to pull out last moment. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but Catherine clearly ready to get back in there. And she did take another fight here. Has not fought in MMA since February of 2019, where she got to third round against Emily Ducati and got rear naked choked over an Extreme Fight Night. Before that, 2, 3, 4 decision wins, although 2 of those were in striking, 2 coming into MMA. Does seem to be pretty well-rounded, but looks to keep it on the feet for the most part. Tiani Valley, she's pretty wild. She's a pretty wild, hard-hitting Hawaiian. I've really liked what I've been able to see from her so far. 3-2 overall. Did lose to Brittany Cloudy by rear naked choke. Really strong regional girl in Brittany Cloudy, who has had her ups and downs for sure. But Tiani was put away in that fight. Also put away by Carrie Taylor Melendez by rear naked choke. But besides that, 3 finishes by KO. 1 coming in the second round. 1 to Andy Nguyen and Ivana Coleman. This will be her LFA debut. I think this is a very, very close, well-matched fight here with Catherine. I think Catherine is going to be the slightly more technical of the two, but Tiani really does go for it at strawweight. She does hit hard and really seem to get her opponent's respect. They're very similar size at 5'4" and 5'3", both weighing in at about 114.5 pounds. We got Catherine fighting out of Denver, so huge nod there with regards to the possible gas tank advantages. And in a fight that I do think could possibly go the distance, I think Catherine is a little more able to get a decision win. So I'm going to lean with Catherine Paprocki in this one. I really do like Tiani Valley, though. I just think that Catherine is a little more of the technical MMA, has a little more of the overall technical MMA game that would be needed to piece together a decision. Could be a possible split. So very close fight. And the odds say that as well. Catherine Paprocki is a slight favorite, -120, even to -110 for Tiani Valley coming back. So this definitely is the closest fight of the night. It could go either way. Paprocki is the angle I'm going to lean ever so slightly. I've seen a few interviews with her. She seems very focused. I think we're going to see a very good version of her coming off of a 2-year layoff. And I love training at elevation. I think that makes a huge difference. But should be a really good one. Tiani is super exciting. Next fight here at 125, Clayton Carpenter versus Nick Clem. Nick Clem also fighting out of Colorado, 32 years old. Fighting out Easton, Mike Easton, BJJ. Easton versus MMA Lab here for Clayton Carpenter. Nick Clem, known as the Kraken. It's always a good nickname. Really solid Tapology picture here. Has a nice little doggo in there. Always got to love the dogs, says Aaron the dog. 32 years old, flyweight. Weighed in at 131 for his last fight. Mark Montoya is his main coach, or at least used to be. I'm not sure if he still is. He did take a few boxing bouts, although not successful in either one. Was knocked out in the second one as well in November of last year. Has not fought MMA since 2018. So we've got another MMA fighter coming off a pretty extended layoff from MMA. Lost to Nick Burgos, the 10-6 veteran by decision. 3-0 prior to that, 2 finishes, one by Darce, one by punches, although not really of note. He was also 5-2, 7-3 as an amateur. Fought so has a decent amount of experience coming in here. Just hasn't fought MMA in a couple years, so a little bit of a red flag to me always. Coming in here against the 3-0 Clayton Carpenter. I have been able to find some tape on Clayton. Very exciting flyweight here. out of MMA Lab, 3-0 as a pro, 24 years of age. Definitely has a lot, of expectations. Had 2 finishes to start his career, a head kick and a rear naked choke. Took on Manuel Medina, who was 0-0 in his LFA debut, went to a decision, but did look pretty solid against Manuel. Manuel did go on to have a triangle choke win over Chancey Wilson in his next LFA fight in February. So we don't know how good Manuel is yet, but I think he could be a decent prospect, and Clayton was able to handle him quite well. For the most part, his striking is where he looks to go, but obviously has very good grappling coming out of MMA Lab. Again, this is an extended layoff for Nick Clem, and I wasn't able to find a ton of tape on him. So based on what I've seen, I am going to take the MMA product, Clayton Carpenter. I think that this could be another close decision, however, but I do think that Clayton Carpenter has more of the tools to possibly get the finish. I do think at 24 years old, fighting out of MMA Lab with John Crouch, fighting with the likes of guys like Benson Henderson, I do think that they are going to have him very ready. And I'm just not crazy about going with these guys with limited experience coming off extended layoffs and coming from other sports. And as always, Bunny, you are the best. I appreciate all the comments and everybody who's watching. Hopefully I'm making a little bit of sense. If at some point I start to ramble a little too fast, put a slow down or something. But I think for the most part, I'm making sense here. I like Clayton Carpenter here. Minus 325. Again, I do like a lot of the favorites on this LFA card particularly. And he's one of them. Clayton Carpenter, he can go right there. Bryce Meredith is tough for me at that price. But Clayton Carpenter, Thomas Peterson, and Tyler Ray, I like those 3 together to come in for a nice above even money parlay right off the bat. So, but Clayton Carpenter, I'm excited to see what he's got. 3-0, 24 years old, taking on the 3-1, 32-year-old. Give me the youth here. And just like that, we're to our co-main event of the evening, 125 division. And I think this is my favorite fight on the card for sure. Rodney Kealohi, the Hawaiian, taking on Mark Kliamako out of AKA. We've been saying AKA is closed down, but I think they are reopening from the pandemic now. So I do believe that Mark is back training there. 23 years old. He is fighting out of California, fighting out of AKA. I like this kid a lot. 5-0. I've gotten to pick. I've really become a big fan of his on the short amount of time that I've gotten to see him. He fought his second fight ever over in Bellator, which you always love to see. Got a KO very quickly over there. His return to UWC, had a rear naked choke and a ground and pound finish. In LFA, had a very nice decision win over a fellow undefeated fighter in Palulu Nakanulua, which was a really good fight. I remember breaking that down back in March. I think I really like that because, again, the cage time, I think, is huge for the 23-year-old. He is 5-0, 4-0 as an amateur as well, but I think the cage time for him is invaluable, and I think will really pay off here coming into this fight with Rodney Kealohi, the Hawaiian. Rodney, he's a wild man. He's a Hawaiian, 5'6" Hawaiian fighting out of Jackson Winklejohn. Very good camp. Don't know his age, but I think he's in his late 20s, if I remember correctly, coming off a very impressive body kick KO finish of 5-1 fighter Mefi Motoroso. So that was a really very impressive debut. He is a finisher. All 5 of his fights being finished inside of 2 rounds. He's had 2 fights finished by body shots, a few finished by punches here. He did lose to Sean Gee, which was not a good loss by guillotine. That was back in December of 2016, however. I think this is going to be fight of the night for LFA. I really like both of these guys here. They match up really well. Rodney will have the reach and length advantage. Mark Kilmako is one of the shorter guys at 5'4", but he's one of the shorter guys in most of his fights. He's fought at bantamweight as well. So definitely, I think that this is a very back and forth fight. This is one where I am interested in the dog, which is Rodney Kialohi. But I really do like Mark Kilomako. My advice is dog or pass on this one. Mark Kilomako is a minus 260 favorite. So I get it's one of the smaller favorites on this card, plus 200 on Rodney Kialohi. I really can understand the bet. Rodney's got some very good training partners. He has a good size. He's very tough. Mark is extremely technical, also very tough, hits very hard, has good grappling, good wrestling. Overall, this guy, I think Mark Kilomako is the real deal. I will say dog or pass, just because I do think Rodney has the ability to finish in this fight. He really does. I think he could be the one pressuring Mark a little bit, but if Mark's able to initiate a little bit of that grappling, the cage control, I do like Mark in this fight, but minus 260, I think it's a little risky, and I think it should be a little closer than that. But Mark's got some really good experience, both amateur and as a pro. Fighting out AKA versus Jackson Winklejohn. Really good matchup here. I think this is going to be a good fight. I will say Mark Kilomako, but minus 260, buyer beware. That's all I got to say. And, yeah, Chico, wanting the dog there. I hear you, Chico. But, yeah, we are on to our first of three main events of the evening. This one for the LFA 108 card. Josh Fremd taking on Gregory Rodriguez out of Brazil. Gregory Rodriguez, 29 years old. I'm shocked he's only 29. Looks a lot older than that. He is known as RoboCop. He was able to rebound from his loss to Jordan Williams on the Contender Series, where he was put away inside just over 2 minutes by punches on the feet. Came back against Al Montavo, another guy who lost on the Contender Series. Al Montavo lost to Tefon Nchukwe. But Al Montavo was put away by Gregory Rodriguez in round 2. Gregory Rodriguez definitely looked to have a good amount of gas. It was nice to see him get the second round finish by strikes. He was getting a lot of finishes in the first round, and typically his second round finishes did come by submission. Very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Again, there were several fights Gregory Rodriguez was set up for on the Contender Series that fell through against guys like Anthony Adams, Joaquin Buckley, Nursidine Imovev. Clearly very high thoughts on Gregory Rodriguez, and this should be a very interesting fight. Gregory Rodriguez is very big for the division. He has fought at middleweight for quite a while. However, but he's a very big middleweight, hits very hard. I do think at times can be a little bit slow and rigid on his feet. And we saw the speed of Jordan Williams take advantage of that. Josh Fremd, very deceptive in his movement is Josh Fremd, in my opinion. He's a lot quicker than people realize. 7-1, 27 years old, entering that prime, 6'4". So 6'4" versus 6'2". Josh Fremd's been on record several times saying that 76.5-inch reach is wrong. I believe that it is wrong. He looks to have a longer reach than that when you watch him. If he doesn't have a longer reach, he fights longer than that. Looked really good against Bruno Oliveira, getting that quick KO in that fight where Bruno Oliveira made it a stand-up fight, and Fremd took advantage of that. I think that Fremd, he does have a few rear naked chokes, but it's a stand-up. It's his boxing that really gets people. I think for Gregory Rodriguez has got to eliminate the distance, got to eliminate the possible reach issues that he could face here against Josh Fremd. But, man, I really have liked how Josh Fremd's looking. The momentum. If you're getting KO'd by guys like Jordan Williams, I do have some questions as to your chin's ability, maybe what that weight cut's doing as he's entering his 30s. I don't know. I'm speculating here, but I do. When this middleweight tournament started out, I believe that this was Josh Fremd's tournament to lose, and I still think that coming into this fight against Gregory Rodriguez, Josh Fremd is on to bigger and better things after this fight, in my opinion, because I do think that he gets another KO win. I think it can come in the first round. Josh Fremd at minus 250. I really like that price quite a bit. I respect Gregory Rodriguez quite a bit and his experience level, but I think that this is Josh Fremd's time. He's been training with some very good guys, and he looked better than ever in his last fight. So I like Josh Fremd here. If I were making a recommendation on a parlay for this card, I think a 4-fight, Josh Fremd at minus 250, Mr. Tyler Ray at minus 400, Clayton Carpenter minus 350, and Thomas Peterson minus 500. I think those 4 together come in pretty handily. It will be well over even money, and any combination of those as well. But yeah, that will sum up the LFA portion of our breakdown. But don't worry, folks. That was only 7 of the 34 fights that I've been breaking down today, because I'm crazy and because I love the sport, but mostly because I'm crazy. So we are, almost like we're flipping channels here. We're on to Bellator 259, taking place at 6 p.m. starting on YouTube. The prelims are free on YouTube. Then we move over to Showtime for the main card. 14 fights on this fight card, and tons of incredible talent. You can see we have Brett Johns in fight number 2 on the prelims for Bellator. Brett Johns is fighting Danny Sabatello on short notice. But yeah, we're on to breakdown number 2, Bellator 259, headlined by Leslie Smith versus Cris Cyborg 2. Leslie Smith, crazy enough to do it twice. We gotta love one of the pioneers of MMA and Leslie Smith. But before we get to that, we are starting at the 155-pound division with an absolutely fantastic fight between 19-3 Alexander Shabili, known as the Perezovit. I'm just going to call him Alexander Shabili. 19-3, 4 of his last 5 fights. He's won 5'9", 155er, fighting out of Russia, taking on Alfie Davis, the English product, 14-3 out of London Shoot Fighters, 29 years old, 5'11", 71-inch reach. I will start with Alfie Davis. I was pretty impressed with what I got to see out of Alfie Davis his last time out. He looked really, really solid over in Bellator Euro Series. I believe it was taking place in London back in September of 2020. Actually, I believe most all of his fights so far have taken place over in England for Bellator, but not 100% positive of that. But against Akon Wanlis, really, Alfie fights like he does in a lot of his fights. Alfie is hugely about his movement, hugely about using a kick-based attack. Very, very cerebral guy. Has a split decision loss to 12-1 Leszek Krakowski, which there's no shame in that at all. Has a few finishes by body kicks and other kick finishes. Has a few liver kick finishes, KOs prior to getting into Bellator. In Bellator, he is 4-0, all 4 fights going the distance. And if you don't know, I am never one who has a problem with fighters going to the decision, especially with how Alfie Davis fights. He likes to keep the danger away from his opponent, uses a lot of movement, a lot of kicks, always comes in very conditioned. Alfie's a really confident guy, too. It's one of the things I really like about him. But Alexander Shabili is no joke. He is a Russian powerhouse. 19-3, fantastic record. Crazy. This is the opener on the prelims. 28 years old, 5'9". Gonna have a shorter reach advantage, making his Bellator debut, possibly his United States debut as well. He's fought He did fight Adriano Martins over in Fight Night Global. That was a very good fight. Martins was on a 3-fight losing streak at that point. Fought Alexander Sedade in his last fight, a 14-2 guy. Has a win over a 33-7 Glairstone. Santos, tons of really good experience. Ryan Quinn, a very good wrestler. He put him away early. Has some flying knee, punch knee finishes, heel hooks. This guy is super exciting, very, very wild, and has been able to show in his last few fights against the elevated competition he can fight to a decision. This one's a very interesting fight for me. I got to make quite a bit of my reads prior to the odds being released. The odds were not released till today. So when I made odds, I really thought this was going to be a very close fight. I think Alfie Davis can frustrate a ton of guys, especially guys where he has a significant reach advantage. The speed may be with Alexander Shabili. Power is with Alexander Shabili. If he can get Alfie cornered and backed against the cage, I do like Alexander's chances. But I think Alfie can really frustrate a lot of these guys. Bellator debut, first time over in the States for Alexander. There's going to be quarantine issues, weight cutting with the smaller sauna. I do think that weight cutting is more of an issue for Alexander as well. I think he cuts a lot of weight to get down to the 155 division. He looks very heavily muscle and thick. He's looked really good. He's been a finisher prior to the last few fights, and now that he's gained his decisions, definitely gives me some confidence on his possible gas tank. I think this is a really good close fight. I'm going to lean Alfie Davis for my pick. I think that he can get a decision here. His kicks can really keep a shorter-armed, shorter-reached fighter at bay here. Really could frustrate Alexander. I'm not sure how many guys he's faced similar to Alfie Davis. Alfie Davis just fights similar to like a Randy Costa in the UFC. Has some kind of Machida-like elements to his game, Wonder Boy style striking, has that kind of wide karate stance at points, so could be tough to take down. I like Alfie. 4 fights in the UFC or in Bellator. I apologize. Really, really good experience, and has the confidence. Definitely a believer. This is a hell of a opener to this card. I'm really looking forward to this. And I got my first dog in the first fight here. Alfie Davis is a plus 330 underdog. Minus 450 Alexander Shabili. I do think this is dog or pass. I think that those odds are really crazy. It's really hard for anybody to really dominate Alfie Davis. I have not seen that. And Alfie has the experience in this organization. And I think Alfie's faced more guys similar to Alexander than Alexander has to Alfie. And at that price, I'm going to take a shot at it. But maybe we come fight night and I feel very stupid. But give me Alfie Davis. Give me the dog. And we're going to move on to our next fight. It is a short notice replacement for Brett Johns and Danny Sabatello. Brett Johns was supposed to face Matthias Matos, which would have been a really good fight. But I think this is a really intense grappling bout here. Danny Sabatello, 10-1, fighting out of ATT, American Top Team. We know what we're getting with Danny at this point, and if you don't, let me explain it. The Italian gangster on a 4-fight win streak, 28 years old, entering that what is known as the prime. His only loss coming to Erwin Rivera in round 4 of Titan, where he was knocked out towards the end of the 4th round. Since then, he's pretty much cruised. Few arm triangle and rear naked choke to lead up to the Contender Series, where he took on Taylor Moore, who also failed a PD test after that fight. So Taylor Moore was on some form of performance-enhancing drugs for that fight, but Danny Sabatello was taking him down some more. Then got a very impressive decision win over Damon Blackshear. Damon Blackshear is a guy that you should know from the regional scene. Beat a lot of good guys, and definitely is a guy who, if you're beating, you're ready for one of the bigger organizations. But now Danny's definitely got a very, very tough draw for his short notice debut here in Brett Johns. Brett Johns, former UFC competitor. I am 5-1 picking Brett Johns' fight, so I have a pretty good read on him. Currently on a 2-fight win streak to Montel Jackson and Tony Gravely. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he has here in his Bellator debut against Danny Sabatello. You know, I think that Brett Johns is one of the better grapplers in this division. You know, Wales has a few really strong grapplers along with Jack Shore. You know, and I do think that on the feet, Brett Johns will have the advantage. Danny Sabatello, not a great striker, and most likely with the 2 grapplers here, we're not going to see a lot of wrestling. If we do, whoever's on top has a huge advantage here. This is a really good 135 fight here, but I do like Brett Johns here making his Bellator debut. Just the level of competition, his technical mastery, I think he's the better of the 2 wrestlers and has definitely the wider MMA game. Good for Danny for taking this fight. He's a plus 250 underdog, so definitely I think getting some respect as a short notice replacement here. Minus 325 for Brett Johns. I do like this fight for Brett. I think Brett's faced some good grapplers before and shown a good propensity to be able to compete in that realm with them. Short notice for Danny. Props to him, but I think it's going to be a tough night at the office. Next fight here at 145, Leah McCourt is back. She's one of my favorites at featherweight, taking on Janae Harding, also known as Hollow Point out of New Zealand. She's fighting on Tiger Muay Thai, has a very good Muay Thai game, so definitely has been able to work on it over there. 6-4, 26-year-old Muay Thai fighter, coming off a win against Jessie Millay in her fourth bout with Bellator. She's 2-2 in Bellator, losing to Amber LeBrock, as well as beating Sinead Kavanaugh and Marina Makatikina. Makatikina is 4-1. Sinead Kavanaugh, were well-known 5-2. That was stopped by a doctor's cut. She was ground and pounded by Amanda Bell prior to picking up a win against Jessie Millay in November of 2020. It was good to see her back in the octagon. She had taken a couple back in the cage. She'd taken a couple boxing bouts, but Jessie Millay, decent girl, not an incredible girl, but a girl who, if you're wanting to be good again, you beat. And she was able to take that decision. Has very good elbows, very good Muay Thai techniques. Has several KO finishes. Has some ground and pound as well. She's been finished herself. Leah McCourt, 4-1. Very good fighter. 28 years old, 5'8", and fighting out SBG. Looking very good for this camp so far. For I've been able to see 4-1 overall, 3-0 in Bellator, coming off a decision win against Judith Reese that was in February of last year. Was supposed to take on Janae Harding in May, and that fight was canceled due to Corona. So now this is a fight that is going to be over a year in the making by the time they finally get it. So that should be really interesting. Leah McCourt likes to use a lot of cage pressure, use a lot of wrestling, implement her grappling for sure. Janae Harding is going to want to keep this on the feet, keep it at distance. If it does get into a clinch, she will, I bet, be looking to initiate the Muay Thai clinch, use those elbows, use those knees. If she's not able to get the respect of Leah early, I think Leah really pours on the pressure, cage control, and cage pressure. Eventually, possibly even getting to her opponent's back or to a mount and being able to put on an arm triangle or rear naked choke type of finish. I will give Janae credit. I think she's tough enough to where the finish I don't think is going to come very easily. So I do see this going to a decision, so that gets risky. But I am going to take a decision win for Leah McCourt. Janae has not been finished by submission. And I do think McCourt's going to look to kind of really focus on position in this fight. It is one of the smaller dogs that I do like quite a bit. minus 150, plus 120 to Janae Harding. Both these girls are going to come in very prepared. They've both been preparing for one another for over a year, so I hope this does result in the best version of these two. We know Bellator is a big fan of Leah, giving her a ton of opportunities with media and whatnot, so not saying that plays a factor here at all, but I do think Leah has a very keen mind for the game. Not saying Janae doesn't, but I just think Leah has more ways to win, controls the grappling, gets the cage pressure, and grinds out that decision win. Big win for whoever takes that. 145 could be setting up for a fight or two away from a possible Cyborg appearance. Next fight here, Davian Franklin versus Tyler King. This is a heavyweight bout. Lot of red for Tyler King. He's lost at least his last 5, 12-9 overall. For the Marauder, Tyler King, 40 years of age, 6'5", 79-inch reach fight at Connors MMA Academy. Not familiar with that. He lost to Jamel Jones in his last MMA fight back in October of 2020. He was knocked out at the end of round 1. It was a pretty rough knockout. He's been knocked out by Chris Larson. He's been knocked out by Jared Kilkenny. He's been knocked out by Amir Al-Karbari, Keith Bell. He got a decision against Pat Welsh before he was knocked out by Greg Rebello. He was knocked out by Eric Bedard, knocked out by Dan Spawn in the Ultimate Fighter Season 19, if you remember Tyler King from there. Tyler King's been knocked out in 7 of his 9 losses. And so that is kind of where I go with this one. Davian Franklin, 26 years old, going to be 27 in June. So fellow Gemini, happy early birthday, Davian, all day Franklin. But 26 years old, 26 versus 40. Another Jackson Winklejohn guy on the card. Like to see that. Had a really weird fight with Ras Hilton in his last fight where, it kind of ended sloppily. We did see Davian getting dragged into the deep cardio waters and how he did start to falter a little bit. And that was stopped with apparent back of the head shots by Ras Hilton, or on Ras Hilton, but it really looked like Ras Hilton was just exhausted and hurt. Davian did get a finish by ground and pound of J.W. Kaiser, who I feel like we've been talking about so many people lately who fought J.W. Kaiser. But he got the finish in that fight. I like the finish early on here. Tyler King has been knocked out 7 times, and I think been knocked out by guys who do not hit as hard as Davian. With Davian, we saw in the last fight, when you get to the 3rd round, things get dicey. He gets sloppier. He gets less technical. But I just don't think Tyler has the horsepower or the armor to get to that point. So I'm going to take the chalkiest of chalk favorites here, Davian Franklin. He's a minus 800 versus a plus 550 at Tyler King. I'm not saying bet it, but, I mean, Tyler King, I think, is being brought in very clearly to make the 2-0 fighter 3-0. Speaking of 3-0 fighters, Valerie Lareda is finally back. I feel like this girl has been talking about being back for like about a year. I felt like she kept saying like December, then it was January, and then it was, but, there's no secret here. Valerie Lareda, very popular social media game, Taekwondo practitioner since she was born. She'll make sure to let you know that every time she talks about herself. Fights out ATT, has the best training partners in the world, has a ton of very invested people backing her. Very pretty girl, 22 years old, turns 23 in July, taking on Hannah Guy, the Hurricane, relentless grappling in MMA in Mississippi. 2-1. Seems like a very nice, hard-working girl out of Mississippi. Has a split decision loss to Kayla Haracho. Kayla Haracho, not a bad fighter at all. I do respect her. Hannah Guy also 5-0 as an amateur. Has a few rear naked choke wins in there. Definitely a grappler. Has an armbar win as well. Beat Vanessa Grimes, who not the greatest of competition. Now, I would say Valerie is getting a decent matchup, but Valerie's question definitely is her ground game, and particularly what happens if she's on her back. We don't really know too much about that yet. We've been able to see some ground and pound. Got to see it last time against Tara Graf. She did fight Kobe Fletcher as well and get a KO there. Went to a decision with 0-1 Larik Dash. Still very early on in Valerie's career, 2-1 as an amateur, losing a split. I do think for Hannah is not going to look to grapple or look to the stand-up game much in this. I think that she's got to know that the spot she really can possibly have an advantage is with regards to cardio and grappling. So I would expect her to spam takedowns, work the cage and everything. But it's just, we've got one girl who's training in a very small gym in Mississippi, hasn't fought against the best of competition. Valerie Lareda, fighting on ATT, hasn't fought the best competition inside of the Bellator cage, but outside of it, she's training with girls like Marina Moros. She's got girls like Joanna Jędrzejczyk, all of the facilities in the world of ATT. We'll have to see. She definitely cuts a lot of weight to get down to this division. So that is always something I'm watching out for at flyweight for Valerie. But for Hannah, she's got to get in there. She's got to grapple, make it dirty, make it a slow-paced, sloppy fight. If there are fans, have the fans booing. But I'm just not sure she has the acumen in the wrestling game to get the fight to her grappling. But if she does that, all of a sudden a pretty huge favorite, a minus 610 against a plus 425, it's a dog or pass for me completely. No two ways about it. I think that Valerie eventually is starting to slowly work up to where she's going to have to face a little bit of steeper competition as she goes. If she can't handle Hannah Guy, she's definitely not going to be able to handle the upper echelon. And right now, Valerie's the number 9 ranked girl at 125, so I have high expectations. The Bellator rankings are a whole nother Oprah story that we'll save for another day. But moving on to a 155 division, Aviv Gonzalez, the Israeli grappler, taking on Sean Felton, Superfly, out of New York. 30 years old is Sean Felton, 6'1", good size, 155er. Sean Felton, 5'2", 30 years old, 6'1". Again, good reach. Coming off a draw against Pia Kahi. Zimmerman, a 5'3" individual. Drew Morales went to a split decision and won that before losing to Elijah Harris and Anthony Romero. Anthony Romero was his first or second fight, and that was a close fight. He did push Romero. We've also gotten to see how good Romero is coming off of The Ultimate Fighter. So I don't think that's one to hang your head on. But his wins coming to guys like Xavier Nash, Ty Knuckles, Vince Ciotoli, just guys I'm not all that familiar with. Pretty low-level records here. And Gonzalez, we know what he does. He's a grappling wizard, and I mean wizard. 5-0 now. Had a heel hook of Eduardo Mirativsky. It was a really beautiful Imanari roll heel hook for the fastest submission in Bellator history. Followed that up with an anaconda choke inside of a minute on 14-8 Zaka Faltuzadeh, and then a 1-0 win over Logan Neal, or a win over 1-0 Logan Neal, where again Logan Neal has gone on to get 2 wins since facing Aviv, so he's 3-1 now. Has another fight coming up on Valor Underground against a 6-3 individual. So Aviv makes everybody look like they haven't grappled. He gets in there and he looks for the finish immediately. 5 fights, 5 first-round finishes. Sean Felton, definitely the striker of the two of these, going to look to keep it on the ground. I just think Aviv is going to be unrelenting on the takedowns, and I just am not sure if the tall 6'1" lightweight out of New York, Sean Felton, is going to be able to get off the shots he needs to get the respect that he wants to get from Aviv. We haven't seen Aviv win the takedowns or stop, but it's also hard to imagine him not getting takedown or even getting your back from staying, just any way to start grappling and slowly suck you into his world. So I like Aviv a lot. I know there's a lot of issues going on with Israel and Palestine right now, so that could be a possible distraction or a possible motivation. Minus 425 for Aviv. I'll parlay that. Plus 300 for Sean. I think Aviv is the real deal, but we've got to see him keep facing that better and better competition. So we shall see. We are to the third from the top on the prelims. Samiko Inaba taking on Christina Katsiskis. This is at flyweight again. This is a fight I would have been interested to see Valerie take on in Nevada. In Inaba, really impressive in her debut. 30 years old, taking on the 30-year-old 1-1, the meat grinder, Christina Katsiski. Love the nickname. 30 years old, as I said. She's 1-1 with a win over Vanessa Grimes. As Hannah Guy also had. Hannah Guy and most do finish Vanessa. This was a decision for Katsiski. Had a split decision as an amateur and lost the decision. So she's had the realm of decision kind of feelings here. Samiko Inaba. I really like what I saw from her in her debut. 1-0. She took on an 0-1 Jessica Ruiz. Landed a lot of shots on the feet and then ended it with the ground and pound victory. And also has a very good amateur experience, 6-1 as an amateur, lost a majority decision. Other than that, all stoppages except for one decision, some strike stoppages and a ref stoppage in round 3. I like Samiko Inaba quite a bit in this fight. I think that she is the more explosive, impressive athlete, can take the fight wherever she wants. I think her top control is legit, has good finishing ability. I like Samiko a lot. I could see her being an eventual matchup for Valerie if they so inclined. Very similar experience. Samiko minus 500 favorite though, plus 350 for Katsikis. I like the favorite here. I think she should be reliable, but only 1-0, 6-1 as an amateur, but only 1-0 as a pro. 30 years old also, so anything can happen for sure. But I'm going Samiko. Next fight here, Grant Neal versus Tyree Fortune. Not Tyrell Fortune. This is Tyree Fortune, brother of Tyrell Fortune, light heavyweight, 30 years old, turning 32 in July. He is a little more lanky than his brother. It at least looks like. For I have American Top Team Portland, 6'2", 76.5-inch reach, taking on the 5'11" Jeff Neal with the 74-inch reach. So Tyree does have the reach advantage, but Neal is all about that pressure, as we all know. And with Tyree, he is coming off of a split win of Chuck Campbell in his second fight in Bellator, had a decision win over Michael Quintero in his debut, has not fought since November of 2019. Last year in December, it was scheduled Grant, Neal, and Fortune. Fortune had to withdraw. I'm not sure exactly what the issue was, but they did rebook this fight here. And so they both, again, this is a fight where both guys have been preparing for a year plus for each other. Tyree obviously training with his brother amongst other fighters there. Tyrell Fortune had a little bit of a skid as well. And the guys that Tyree has faced have not been of the highest level. Fellow 5-0 guy Grant Neal here, really, really strong, puts on a ton of pressure, built like a fire hydrant at 5'11", at 185 on an 11-fight win streak between his pro and amateur career, has never lost in either, fighting out of Denver, Colorado in Genesis Training Academy. So again, that high sea level keeps that gas tank going, has a second-round win over Maurice Jackson, had a decision win against Hamza Salim, where Hamza was not doing anything, has 4 of his 5 wins in Bellator, had a ground pound win of Claude Cox. I think that he looks to really pressure Tyree here. I think pressure, and more pressure. I think that the gas tank will favor Grant Neal as well. Even though when you look at these guys, you probably look at Grant and you're like, oh, he's the stockier, more muscular guy, gonna have a gas issue. But I think Tyree has been the one to show to slow down a little bit as these fights go. So I like Grant Neal in this fight. I think it's a very good matchup. I just think Grant Neal is the stronger, more aggressive, capable grappler, and that's, I think, where it really comes down to. Grappling and cage control for Grant Neal are huge. I also think the power in the striking is on Grant Neal's side, and conditioning. Denver is, if I was a fighter, I would be training in Colorado. I think it makes a huge difference training at elevation, and a guy like Tyree Fortune has shown some issues with his gas tank at times. I like Grant Neal quite a bit. He is a pretty decent favorite. I was expecting this one to be a little closer. Minus 275 for Grant Neal, plus 210 for Tyree Fortune. I'm just not sure if Tyree can kind of withstand the pressure and the volume of Grant Neal. So I might be looking more into if this fight goes the distance or not, which if I had to say, I would say it does go the distance. I think these guys do match up with each other well. Two undefeated guys and very good. But I'll take Grant Neal here, but he is a bigger favorite than I'd prefer. So maybe some people see the Fortune name and get excited. But Tyree Fortune, little brother of Tyrell, still a good fighter, but I'm going to take Grant Neal here. And we are to the final fight of the prelims on breakdown 2 of 3, people. If you cannot see it below, we already did the LFA, which you can check out. I interviewed Fernando Padilla at the beginning of the show. Fernando Padilla just got signed by the UFC Featherweight contender at 14-4, 24 years old, 6'1", Mexican featherweight. Check him out. He had an elbow. He's going to be on Dana White's looking for a fight. LFA breakdowns here. We're in the middle of Bellator 259. We're to the featured prelim. The prelims, again, will be on YouTube for free. So in case you thought you had an excuse before, you really don't. And this is a very good fight. Syed Awad, long-time Bellator staple, going through a rough patch here in his last few. 23-13 now, taking on 16-3. Nate, the Snake Andrews. He does the snake thing with his hand, so I was trying to do it. I like Nate Andrews quite a bit. He was in the PFL last year, able to play a little bit of a spoiler, fights out of Triforce MMA, as well as New England Combat. Played spoiler to Rashid Magomedov in a fight that, frankly, when I watched it, I scored it for Rashid, but definitely a very close fight. Nate Andrews was able to use his length and striking, hurt Rashid in a few spots there. Really, one of the only times I've seen Rashid really hurt. Good body kicks, good grappling as well. Has a finish of Bryce Logan by guillotine choke. That's very, very impressive. Has a win over a few others with decent records, but not that I am as familiar with. Knocked out Julian Lane back in March of 2016. Let me bang, bro. Yeah, he's got tons of finishes. Since taking that next step up, as it often happens, the decisions have come. Has 2 decision losses, one being a majority decision to Chris Wade. No shame there. Again, has the win over Rashid Magomedov, which is just very, very impressive. Syed Awad, he's been around for a long time. 37 years old now, on a 4-fight losing streak, as I said before that. And also had a no contest in his last fight against Mando Nalo, Rat Garbage, where he was low blowed in a fight that I think he was actually winning. He really did look good. So if that's an indication, if he comes into this Nate Andrews fight with that same sort of aggressiveness and accuracy with the striking, I think Syed Awad could surprise Nate Andrews quite a bit. His losses have come to Benson Henderson, Brandon Gertz, Goti Yamamuchi, and Paul Daly. No shame in any of those. Has a ton of finishes as well. When you really look at all his losses, they're to guys like Brennan Ward at 170, Derek Anderson, who's a very good fighter, Patricky Pitbull, lost to Will Brooks in a decision. Yeah, he's fought a ton of very good fighters. Also knocked out Will Brooks. It's just Syed Awad has played spoiler and shocker a lot. I had bet Mando Nalo in my last fight and was very nervous until that low blow happened. So Syed Awad knows how to play spoiler, knows how to make me really sweat. These are two long, skinny strikers. And I do think Nate Andrews has the propensity to use the grappling a little bit more. I think it would be smart for him to do so in this fight. But I do think he's going to look to really show off that striking. Has good body kicks, has good pressure, good boxing, good takedowns. And Syed Awad, 37 years old, fighting at 155 still. I'm just wondering if the cuts, the smaller weight, the more athletic individuals, this is not a young man's division. And he's been in a lot of wars, fought a lot of good competition. Nate Andrews, last three being against Chris Wade and Rashid Magomedov. Very, very good level of competition here. Almost got a win over Chris Wade as well. These two like to play spoiler a lot. I think Nate Andrews is coming into this fight with the momentum, with the hunger. It's going to be a little more assertive, the younger man. So I'm going to take Nate Andrews here, but I'm shocked at the price. It's dogger pass for me. Minus 350 for Nate Andrews is way too high. He fights a lot of guys very closely. Syed Awad has 12 plus Bellator fights, has faced champions before, has beaten champions before. And again, against Mando Nalo, who Mando Nalo ended up looking very good in his next fight. He really gave Mando all he could take before those low blows ended up stopping the fight. So I do like Nate Andrews, but this is way too big of a line at minus 350, so it's going to have to be a pass from me. Pass from me, dog. But really good fight. That is the prelim featured fight of the night. We made it to main card number 2 of 3. Going to take a very quick sip of water. How y'all doing? Are you enjoying this information? Oh, I cannot believe I'm able to kind of fit all this in my head, but I love this sport and I love breaking down these fights. So thank you all for joining again. And, I will keep going here. Took a little break. One more sip of water. All right. We're on to the main card now of Bellator 259 taking place on Friday, May 21st. Starting at 6 p.m. on YouTube. First fight of the main card, very exciting prospect here. And Christian Edwards, he's back. 4-0 now, out of Oklahoma, only 22 and a half years old. Light heavyweight on the up and up. Taking on a former middleweight out of Mississippi. I believe he's about 28, 29-year-old Ben Big Tuna Parrish out of Mississippi. 4-1. Not going to win any bodybuilding competitions, but there's a lot of guys who won't win bodybuilding competitions or good MMA guys. So we get a little into the record here. Took on Logan Woods in his last fight. It was a catchweight of 195. And this was in November of 2019. And he had the Weidman Silva break. Took an inside leg kick to Logan Woods, his opponent. Took a step back and his leg snapped. So this is definitely one that I'm interested to see the weigh-ins. I want to see Ben Parrish's conditioning coming back after this layoff because before it, he wasn't always in the greatest of shape. Has been off for 2 years, had a major injury, and he's going back up to 195 or 205, where he's fought most of his career. He does have a rear naked choke of Teddy Holder, who I do rank a decent regional guy. The other guys he's fought, 1-1, 0-4, 3-14. Has some decent striking, but seems to use it to get to his grappling. Christian Edwards, 4-0, legit 205er. Has looked very good in Bellator so far. 4 of his 5 fights have been in Bellator. He has a win. He has an elbow finish, a left head kick finish and a rear naked choke finish of Hamazad Salim, a guy who we saw earlier on in the card, who faced, I believe, Grant Neal. And when he faced Grant Neal was not able to finish him. Meanwhile, Christian Edwards broke him down by the second round, used his wrestling, got his back, and took a rear naked choke home. Christian Edwards has a really impressive highlight reel, finish of Vargas to start out his career. Has a heel hook in grappling also, which you definitely like to see. And all 4 of his pro fights have been in Bellator, so he hasn't had 5 fights. 2 first round finishes, decision over Marco Hutch, where he really showed his overall game. I do think that Ben Parrish is being brought in here, getting a great opportunity after breaking his leg 2 years ago. I frankly think going from that to a huge prospect in Bellator, it's a pretty steep hill to climb for the Mississippi product in Ben Parrish. I got Christian Edwards here. I think he gets a KO finish. I just think athletically and tactically, he's got it all. 22 and a half years old. This guy is one of the guys in the 205 division I'm really excited to see in the upcoming years. Minus 550 favorite for Christian Edwards. That's that squash price. Plus 380 on Ben Parrish. I can't in good conscience give you guys the advice to go with Ben Parrish. I think Christian Edwards does win this and gets a finish in emphatic fashion. Very confident guy, Christian Edwards. I'm pretty confident in him. I wish the price was a little better. It's just a little bit too crazy for me. So I'm going to have to, say pass on it for the most part. Jaleel Willis versus Maycon Mendaka. This is unofficially the LFA 100, this is the LFA 170-pound title fight taking place in Bellator. These are 2 of the recent 100 welterweight champions from LFA. Maycon Mendaka, I will start with the 30-year-old Brazilian, 6'2", 77-inch reach, fighting out Black House MMA, Muay Thai specialist, on a 5-fight win streak. In those 5 fights, he's gotten finish of Devin Smith, who's been on the Contender Series. Ended up finishing Devin Smith after Devin Smith went for a spinning back fist, and Mendaka went right out of the way and landed a right hook straight to the temple. Beautiful technical striking on Maycon. Also has a finish of Cassius Kanye, a very good regional guy. He got a triangle finish. Batsum Barrel Dagavadorj, the Mongolian, what is it? I forgot. It's the Mongolian Falcon. That's what I thought it was. They had an absolute war for 5 rounds where I think he put a beating on the Mongolian Falcon that he's never really going to fully recover from. Maycon does have some potential chin issues that have shown up in some of his fights. He's been knocked out in under 2 minutes twice by Matthew Frinchu, the Australian product. Very impressive fight there. And then Christian Aguilera, he was knocked out in 27 seconds where he kind of waved him on and was like, let's go. And then he was completely shut out. Maycon does not like when he's very, very crowded. I think for Jaleel Willis, that is his route to victory. Willis needs to crowd him and pressure him with volume and cage control. 29-year-old, 5'11", 76-inch reach, so very good reach. Memphis Judo and Jiu-Jitsu. Had a very impressive debut win over Mark Lemminger. Good wrestler, very big guy, and he was able to deal with the 170 grappling power and really show it off. He'd had some issues with getting controlled earlier in his career, which he really corrected. Beat Vinicius de Jesus in a very good fight. One thing that I did notice in that fight, however, is Vinicius was able to land a lot of inside leg kicks on Jaleel. If he has not corrected that movement and the weight he's putting on that lead leg, I do think that could be a route Maycon Mendaka takes to possibly steal this one. These guys have fought very similar levels of competition, both being brought up through the LFA. Both have good reaches of 76, 77 inches. Both have good movement. I think that the Jaleel Willis is the one who needs to pressure and possibly look for the takedowns at certain points in this fight. And so I'm really going back and forth. I'm going to take Jaleel Willis. I've just liked how he looked in that last fight against a very different guy in Mark Lemminger than he's taking on here in Macon. But I do think Macon looks at times a little bit frail for the 170 division. There's some possible chin issues at times. So I'm going to take the slight dog in Jaleel Willis. I think that if he avoids the power in round one, this becomes more and more his fight. He has more and more an ability to pressure and get the control as the fight goes on. So give me some Jaleel Willis at plus 105. Give me that dog. I like it. I do think he'll fight for your money, and I think he is still ever improving. Both guys right in their prime at 29 and 30 years old. This is a great fight, great matchup. Really excited to see what happens in this one. But I'll take Jaleel Willis, and I'll take him to get another decision win. He's really been stringing them together 5 straight decisions. I like a 6 straight here. But could be another really impressive performance from Macon. I just think that I like Jaleel in this one. I like how he's starting to look at the welterweight division. And, it's a good one. 14-2 versus 11-4. Very good matchup. Next fight, third from the top. And then we only have one more fight card to go here. But Fabian Edwards taking on Austin Van Zandt, also known as Vanderford. Austin Vanderford now has really gotten comfortable at middleweight. He was kind of a tweener for a little while there, the 31-year-old product. Austin Vanderford, the gentleman, 10-0. We know what Austin looks to kind of go in here and do. Out of Alaska originally, then moved to Oregon, where we know how the grappling acumen is there. Fighting out Gracie Barra in Portland. I'd say the arm triangle is his go-to move for sure. I was able to win in submission underground with it even a few times, so that's super impressive. Also has won outside in the cage with it. Took on Gratchen Boisnian, very good fighter. And really controlled him. Took on Vinicius de Jesus. Also controlled him. Not able to get the finish in those, but kept the grappling going throughout. De Jesus also took on Jaleel Willis. So, and we saw, I think, Vanderford really eliminated every aspect of Vinicius's game. He just kind of goes in, looks for the takedown. That's what he does. Locks up the arm triangles, ground and pound, rear naked chokes. I think he looks to do the same thing here. Fabian Edwards, I think this is a rough matchup for his style. Fabian, very exciting striker, fights very similar to his brother, Leon Edwards, 28 years old, 6'1", almost an 80-inch reach, really impressive. Striking can be taken down, however, and controlled. He was fully mounted by Costello Van Steenis, and I do think that was what resulted in Costello getting a close split decision. Before that, undefeated fighter himself, and Fabian Edwards had some submissions early on, but it was a striking, I think, that proved to really be what got him to the dance. His second fight in Bellator, he was kind of getting controlled by Falco Neto, an 11-9 guy, until the up kicks came. They finished him, but split decision win over Mike Shipman. That was a very good fight over in London, led to a split loss to Costello Van Steenis. I just think that Austin is a much better wrestler and grappler than Costello, and so I think Austin can get to those similar type of positions Costello was able to get to in order to get the split. I do like Fabian. I know that he's preparing with his brother right now. They both have fights coming up. Nate Diaz coming up at the beginning or middle of June. So for Leon, so Fabian and Leon are really preparing for each other. I just think that Fabian at 185 just seems a little bit easily takedownable and controllable, and that is what Austin's going to look to do against just about everybody. If Austin comes in here and tries to outbox Fabian, out Muay Thai Fabian, outstrike Fabian, then That's just not the route to go for Austin to win this fight. But I think Austin shoots for that takedown, shoots for it again and again, gets it in, controls the position for at least 2 or 3 rounds. I like Austin Vanderford quite a bit. I like the price of -240 against a +180 in Fabian Edwards as well. I get this is one of Austin's toughest matchups of his career, but I do think it's also Fabian's toughest matchup of his career. So, and I just wasn't crazy seeing Costanello, Van Steenis get full mount. I think that Austin can do that and more. So I got to go with Austin -240. I am totally good with that price. Co-main event, bantamweight division between bantamweight staple Darrion Caldwell taking on Leandro Higo. This is the second time they've fought. Leandro Higo, 20-5, 32 years old, taking on the 33-year-old Darrion Caldwell. The first time they fought, Darrion Caldwell got the takedown. Leandro was looking to get back to his feet, exposed that neck. Darrion locked it up and got the tap inside of a round. A very impressive performance for Darrion Caldwell. Darrion Caldwell's done that to a ton of guys. It is the only it's technically the second time because on The Ultimate Fighter he was also submitted. The only time in his official record where he was submitted. He is currently on a 2-fight win streak, finishing Sean Bunch with a guillotine and then Ricky Bandejas with a rear naked choke back in October. Really impressive performance there for Higo. Darrion Caldwell is a different kind of beast, though. One of the best wrestlers in the division. Fought his last fight against A.J. McKee at featherweight. But he's gone between featherweight and bantamweight a few times in his career. The last time he was at bantamweight was against Horiguchi, where he did lose a decision to Horiguchi. There's no shame there at all. He fought Horiguchi twice, actually. Has a big win over Noah Lahet as well. But, yeah, Darrion is getting older, and I think there's a reason he was no longer making the cut down to 135. He is a former champion at 135 as well. And Hugo training out of now, Darrion Caldwell training out of Sanford MMA, one of my favorite camps. They'll work on the stand-up, but they're going to make Darrion do what he does well. He's already got a finish over Higo. I think he tries to push this into the grappling realm once again. I'll definitely wait for weigh-ins just because at this point I'm sure Darrion Caldwell is a sizable favorite due to the result of their first fight, but I do think this fight will be more competitive. I think Higo is on a good little run these last couple as well. So I don't put it past him, but my official pick will be Darrion Caldwell. It's hard for me to go against it, but -300 is also hard for me to go with. I think that's a pretty steep price to play here on Caldwell, and definitely wait for weigh-ins at 33, approaching 34 years old, making these cuts after being used to featherweight again. Got to see the conditioning here, but I like Caldwell to go 2 for 2 against Higo. So in the co-main event, very good co-main event. The main event, Cris Cyborg versus Leslie Smith for the featherweight championship of the world. They have fought before. Leslie Smith is now 38 years and 9 months old, 12-8-1, almost 39. I've only missed one Leslie Smith fight I picked. I'm 5-1, about to be 6-1. She did beat Amanda Bell, which is, a very impressive win. But going from Amanda Bell and a majority win over Sinead O'Connor and a loss to an Arlene Blencow, going from those types of fights to a Cris Cyborg, it's several fights up. Leslie Smith fought Cris Cyborg back at UFC 198 for Doom versus Miocic. She was knocked out. Some can argue an early stoppage, but kind of did Leslie a favor by not letting her take a ton of shots. She did go on to beat Irene Aldana, Amanda Lemos in the UFC, as well as Sinead Kavanaugh and Amanda Bell. So she's gone kind of a sneaky little run. She was definitely cut from the UFC for reasons outside of her fighting, more of her outspokenness and things like that. But it's Cris Cyborg. She's 23-2. She has looked like not a different woman. She's looked like the same Cyborg from that 51-second loss to Amanda Nunes. She definitely has come back, gone back to being the hammer, got a decision win over Felicia Spencer, really worked Julia Budd and showed some fantastic cardio to get the 4th-round finish against Julia Budd. Really impressed there. She's not just a one-and-done fighter. She's got 3rd-round finishes, 4th-round finishes, 2nd-round finish of Arlene Blencow in her last fight. Arlene Blencow, 13-7, and she was on a 3-fight winning streak prior to that. Had not lost in Bellator, and Cyborg put her away, used her jiu-jitsu, which I really like seeing. I could really see that being a route again for her against Leslie Smith. In my opinion, this is Cyborg by however she wants. I hate to say it, but it is how I feel. Leslie Smith approaching 39 years old against the 35, almost 36 Cyborg, 5'8" versus 5'9". Cyborg has a reach advantage, the power advantage. Leslie Smith has been in there before with her and wasn't put to sleep, so maybe there's some confidence there. But I think that's really digging. I can't bet Cyborg at all at minus 1,000. That is insane. If anything, I'm putting a little sprinkle on Leslie at plus 700. But that leads us to, this is funny enough, shorter than, some breakdowns when I have a host, maybe because I don't have as much to go through with regards to rebuttals. But I'm doing my best to give you guys a full rounded view of these fights in my picks. And again, my picks, Alfie Davis is my underdog at plus 300. I really like how he fights, and I think he can very easily get a decision. I like Brett Johns over Danny Sabatello. I like Liam McCourt over Janae Harding. I like Davion Franklin to get the KO of Tyler King, the way they set it up. I will take Valerie Lareda to beat Hannah Guy. I think that there's just a preparation and a level difference there, but if Hannah Guy makes it dirty and gets the grappling, that could be a very good upset. And Hannah Guy being a plus 500, I'll take a sprinkle because it's over the plus 200 lower level women MMA bout odds that I always do. So I'm going to sprinkle Hannah Guy, but that's up to you if you want to. Avi Gonzalez, I like him to continue his submission reign. Sumiko Inaba, I like her to control her fight. Grant Neal, cardio and cage pressure. I'm going with Nate Andrews, but again, Syed Awad could really get the upset here. I'm not putting it past him, but I like Nate Andrews. Christian Edwards is going to blow the doors off Ben Parrish, in my opinion. Jaleel Willis and Macon Mendaka, one of the closest fights on any of these 3 cards. I got Jaleel Wilson with pressure, movement, volume. I like those for a decision. Austin Vanderford, wrestling, eventually getting a possible submission, maybe an arm triangle. Darian Caldwell, again, wrestling, submission against Higo, but we'll see how the weight cut looks. And Cyborg, I will say Cris Cyborg by KO. So that leads us to the end of breakdown 2 of 3. We've now arrived at the UFC breakdown here. We are an hour and 43 minutes into this breakdown. If you've been with me or if you're joining me late for this, you are a savage, and I appreciate you all being here. But we keep the train going. I'm going to take one sip of water. First of all, shout out to the dogs in here, all chilling. Very proud of everybody. Hopefully I didn't jinx that. And hope everybody's having a great Wednesday. This is fun. I don't think I'll ever do 3 cards in one again, but we do what we got to do. I put the tape and study in, and hopefully I can help you guys make some money along with me. So we are to our 13th fight UFC bout back in the Apex. No owners, or no, not a big crowd, if any crowd. Smaller octagon, definitely should be noted with these strikers, especially a striker like Cody Garbrandt. Having that less cage dimensions is huge. But let's go ahead and get into this. Rafael Alves versus Damir Ismagulov, taking place at 155 pounds. This is it's interesting that Alves is getting another shot here. Alves' last fight, he missed weight by 12 pounds at 145. Needless to say, you're not going to be fighting at that weight anymore. They're going to make you move up. The MMA Masters product on a 5-fight win streak, however. His last fight coming on the Contender Series, guillotine choke finish to Alejandro Flores. He is quite a finisher, has only been to a decision 2, 3, 4 times in his career. The rest of his fights are finished. He also gets finished a lot. He has 8 submission wins and 6 submission losses. So that's very interesting. Lost by leg kicks to Wagner Rocha, which is not a great way to lose, frankly, to Wagner Rocha. Had an injury, lost to Fisher. Since then, has been on a 5-fight win streak. Fought once in 2017, twice in 2018, once in 2019, once in 2020. And he's now fighting what appears to be his one time in 2021. Prior to this, he was supposed to fight last week. They just rescheduled it to this week. Prior to this, he had the fight against Pat Sabatini that was set up, but he, again, missed weight. So he's moving up to 155. He has had fights at 155. He's an absolute brick of a individual, very athletic, very strong. I don't think the strength will be an issue here moving up, but he's going to have that kind of reach and size disadvantage. 5'8", 68-inch reach, probably the reason he was killing himself to make it to 145. Taking on a guy in Damir Ismagulov, which when I've gotten to see Damir, I have loved what I've seen. 3-0 inside of the UFC. And all 3 of those fights going to decision. 130-27 all around, 130-26, and one with 30-25. So wins over Joel Alvarez, Thiago Moises, and Alex Gorges. Obviously, Alex Gorges not too notable of a win, but these other 2 are fantastic. We're seeing Thiago Moises taking on Islam Makhachev in July. And he's had a lot of big wins coming lately. And Damir really cleaned his way through it. And I get the criticism some people have that he's not a finisher, but we've gotten to see 45 minutes of absolute cage dominance on Damir, winning just about every round on every scorecard and some 10-8. I mean, he's looked really good. I just want him to fight more often. Has not fought since August of 2019. Didn't fight at all during the pandemic. I'm not sure what was really going on at all, but definitely coming back here to a guy in Rafael Alves who can be very dangerous, but 74-inch reach for Damir. That's a 6-inch reach advantage. Only 5'9" versus 5'8", but again, the reach is there. Damir, I really like his striking. I like his cage presence. I like his IQ. He's looking better and better with each fight. 30 years old, fully in his prime. Rafael Alves, fighting on MMA Masters, also 30 years old. This is a big fight for him. It is his debut against a guy who's 3-0 and has looked really good in his decision so far in Ismagulov. Damir is, I believe, the biggest favorite on the card, which is always interesting to start out with. Yeah, but minus 600, I'm going to just say a pass here. I can't really suggest betting on Alves. There's a lot of unknowns. He could still miss weight at 155 because if he would have weighed in what he weighed in last time, he would have. So got to see the scales and everything. But very good fight here for Damir. I think Damir could possibly get his first finish. Again, Rafael has been finished by submission a few times, 6 times as a matter of fact. So that could be a sneaky way for Damir maybe in the second and third round when he gasses out his opponent a little bit because Rafael has serious cardio issues. Next fight at 155 between a short notice Yancy Medeiros, 15-7 now, taking on Damir Hadzovic, the Bosnian bomber. Damir Hadzovic has been looking better, but then he kind of came up against Christos Giagos. That was a very good fight. It was a close fight. I didn't think that was a bad fight. But then the Renato Moicano fight, definitely not impressive. Lost in 45 seconds by rear naked choke. And then we see that Moicano went on to, again,
pretty starched by Fiziev in his next fight, which I think a lot of people will end up doing, but still. Hasevich was supposed to take on Nicholas Mata, a guy coming off the Contender Series. Mata got injured, and now he's facing a guy with kind of a similar body type to him. They're both, kind of, skinnier, taller, 155ers. Yancy Medeiros 5'10" versus the 5'9" Hasevich. But Medeiros on a 3-fight losing streak right now. Got KO'd by Donald Cerrone after being way too friendly. Was ground and pound finished by Gregor Gillespie. No shame in there. And then got a decision loss to Venata. So this is definitely a fight he's coming into. It's a must win. He had those 2 wins of Eric Silva and Alex Oliveira back in 2017. But Yancy kind of since then has not looked himself. Hasn't looked as sharp. 33 years old now. Took a lot of damage in those last few fights. This isn't one of my more popular picks here, or one of my more confident picks, I should say. I just think Demir is going to edge this one out. I think that he can affect Yancy with his power possibly and put him away. And Yancy has shown some chin issues later into his career. So I'm going to take Demir. I'm not super confident on this one, but I think that the power and the strength, the ability to grapple is on Demir's side, if any's. And Yancy just sometimes wants to fight a little too exciting, takes a little too many shots. Demir is a slight favorite, minus 120. The money has come in on him as well. So this is another one where I think the short notice could play a factor. It could be a very close fight. If it's close and goes to a decision, Yancy might be able to take it, though. So, not one of my more confident picks. Very close fight, but 2 155 fights to start out our card here. The next fight is at 145. We have a newcomer in Sheilon Nira Donbike taking on Joshua Kilbao. Joshua in his 3rd fight now out of Australia, taking on another Wolverine and Shaylin out of China. This fight's out of China PI. China PI had a very rough week a few weeks ago at 261, where they put on great fights, but they did not come out on top. Shane Lan went 6-1 last year, lost to Zurong, who we just saw come up short in his debut. However, his fights are to guys like Alexei Oleinik, 155 Alexei Oleinik, Jubilee, who is 9-7, a guy who's 10-11, a guy who's 20-10, who I'm not familiar with, and then a 3-5 guy in Tazan Wang. Now, he's getting a shot at the UFC, though. And he's taking on, he's a pretty exciting fighter. Definitely mixes up the takedowns with the stand-up. I think in this fight, he's definitely going to be looking to grapple, get Joshua on the ground and away from Joshua's power. I think Joshua's power is a potential difference in this one, coming off of that split decision against Charles Jourdain, where he looked really good, was able to drop Charles in that fight, really hanging with him on the feet. I think for Yilan Shah, he's got to look to take this to the ground early and often. I think pressure, and cage control again. Joshua lost to Jalen Turner in his debut. Before that, had a few finishes by KO and ground and pound. I think the power is on Joshua's side, and I do think that he's able to prevent the takedowns of Shaylian, keep it on the feet, and I like him to get Joshua to get a KO in round 2 or round 3, or round 1 or round 2, I should say. I think that Joshua is going to have the size and strength advantage and definitely a stand-up advantage as well. So give me Joshua Kilabao in this one. We look at the odds. Don't love it. Minus 250 for Joshua. Maybe I bet it inside the distance if I'm betting this just to get a little bit of juice because I do think that there's a finish that is likely in this one for Joshua. So I'll take Joshua Kilabao by KO round number 2, but minus 250 is a scary, scary price. Next fight here at 125. Oh, man. Victor Rodriguez. Definitely looked rough in his short notice debut, fighting out of Alaska, got pieced up and then KO'd after just a dominant performance by Adrian Yanez, where he was running away from Yanez and got head kicked, put away. Before that, fought up in Alaska, has had some very good power in his hands, a lot of strike finishes, definitely goes in there and is a wild man. Bruno Silva, also pretty wild, coming off of his first UFC win at 31 years old, fighting out Fight Ready MMA, was able to survive the first round JP buys and then really put it on JP in the second round. Before that, losses to Tagir Ulanbekov and David Dvorak. No shame at all in those two. And Khalid Taha, who was on steroids when he fought him. So Bruno definitely took those 3 losses and got better from them. Exposed JP buys in that fight. I just think that Victor Rodriguez, I'm not sure he belongs or ever belonged in the UFC, short notice or not. And Bruno Silva, I think that they really want to have Bruno Silva get a little bit of shine on him after taking a little bit of it. The buys experiment of Cheyenne buys and JP buys fighting on the same card blew up in the UFC's face. Bruno, I think they're looking to have Bruno have another impressive finish here. He was 0-3 prior to that, but all against very good competition. I think Bruno's faced much better competition. It's just a much better guy. One of my more confident picks here, Bruno Silva, KO, round 1 of Victor Rodriguez, possible round 2 if he maybe is a little more careful in the first round. Minus 350 for Souza. I get it. That's a little bit of a high price, but I do think it's parlayable. I just don't think Victor Rodriguez belongs here. Victor Rodriguez fights like an Alaskan MMA fighter. So I just think that Bruno Souza should clean up in this fight, gets a second straight fight, gets a second straight finish and second straight win, and starts to make a little bit of noise in the 125 division. And good for him at 31, showing constant improvement. Really impressed there. But give me Bruno Silva, minus 350 is a tough price, but I do think an accurate one. Claudio Silva taking on Court McGee. This is like not a prospect fight. I'll put it that way. We've got the 38-year-old, almost 39-year-old Claudio Silva taking on the 36-year-old, every bit of 36, Pit Elevation fight team member Court McGee. Court McGee, 5'11", both 5'11". Court McGee's got the 4.5-inch reach advantage. Court McGee needs to keep this on the feet and rediscover his volume that he seemed to have lost. He's lost 5 of 6. He did have that win over Alex Garcia, and I think surprised a lot of people, myself included. I was quite on Alex Garcia. Had a split decision loss to Diego Lima due to that lack of volume. Sean Brady just was able to out-grapple and control Court McGee. Carlos Condit, even with his lack of speed, lack of power, and everything, was able to keep McGee from getting off first. So for me, this fight is very simple. Do you believe that Court McGee can keep Claudio Silva from getting us into his range, which is on the ground? Claudio Silva, Hannibal Silva, 14-2, approaching 39 years old. Inactivity killed the cat, if we want to say something here. He has a win back in the day to start his career over Brad Scott. That was in March of 2014. November of 2014, he beat Leon Edwards. That's great. Then he took off 3.5, almost 4 years until May of 2018. It was like, where has he been? He had some injuries he was really trying to repair from. And he took on Nordine Talib, put him away with a rear naked choke, round 1. Very impressive. Then he, takes almost a year off and is back against Danny Roberts. 3rd round armbar win over Danny Roberts. Very impressive. Let's see some more of this guy. Then takes off another, 5 months. So that's fine. Gets another win over Cole Williams. And then takes off another year. And finally comes back against James Krause. James Krause stops the takedowns, ends up really exposing Claudio Silva's lack of a stand-up game, but Kraus is so much faster, so much better volume, so much better movement than what is going to be presented here with Court McGee. I do think even on the feet, Claudio Silva can make this a fight, but I do think Claudio Silva is going to look for any opportunity to initiate the grappling. And once he initiates the grappling, I think he has some of the best jiu-jitsu in the division still. And at 39, that will still be there. Court McGee, 36, but a much weathered 36, has never been submitted. He's only been finished by Santiago Ponzinibbio. So he's a very tough guy. And, but I do think Silva has the level of grappling that can give a lot of guys their first loss. And there's Chico, who couldn't make it the whole breakdown without barking. So sorry for the barking here. But again, I think that Claudio Henrique da Silva should be able to get the pressure, use his striking enough, possibly even have the more volume between the two, which is crazy to me. But just Court McGee seems a little bit shot at this point, if I'm being completely honest. But he's facing a guy who's older, who also has a lot of injuries and inconsistency in himself. I'll take Claudio Silva. It's a pick 'em right now, minus 115 both sides. I'm betting Claudio is able to get the takedown and then able to get the finish. And if he can get a submission, it'd be the first submission of Court McGee's career, so that'd be very impressive for Claudio. I will take Claudio, but this is a fight where it's a pick 'em for a reason. Most likely, if it goes to a decision, we could be hearing both guys' names as a split. But give me Claudio Silva by submission, round number 3. I'm going to say this goes deep, and Claudio pulls it out. Next fight here, this fight is either going to be super exciting or super boring. It depends on who wins, and I hate breaking down a fight like that. But we got Ben Rothwell, who used to be kind of exciting, but since he's been back from his USADA suspension, not a lot of the excitement, not a lot of the explosion, not a lot of the finishing ability. A lot of his fights, we're seeing like the OSP fight, where cage control and keeping his opponent from being exciting is what's getting him to the dance. Chris Barnett, though, Beast Boy, former super heavyweight fighter, 34 years old, turning 35 next month. So a fellow Gemini, Chris Barnett. He's got a lot of really fun highlights. Super exciting striker, strikes in a way that you should not be able to strike when you're a 5'9" super heavyweight like him. But hey, he just gets in there and throws down. Got a win over Ahmed Tijani in his last fight. He's on a 5-fight, 6-fight, 7-fight MMA win streak. Getting all those by finish, except for one, which was a split win over Rashawn Jackson. That was a fight that was really weird. If you go back and watch that Island fight, we know Island fights from Dave Van Auken. No, he's a huge Island fight guy. He was knocked out by Alex Nicholson, which is a little bit of a worry for sure. But again, Chris Barnett, he's a really wild guy. Fights, has fought a lot of decent competition. Never really was sure if he'd get into the UFC, but he's made it. Ben Rothwell is really slowed down quite a bit. 39 years old, fighting on Rothwell MMA, has not fought since losing to Marcin Tybura by decision. No shame there. Ovin St. Peru was able to drop him several times. Stefan Struve was winning that fight until multiple nut shots. And then Dan Murgliata really encouraging Struve to fight through it. And then he kind of just went forward willy-nilly and finished him. I think Ben Rothwell can do that to anybody. I think more likely his route to finish in this fight. He's not a big wrestler. He's more kind of cage pressure. And when his opponents try to take him down, that's when he gets a lot of his submissions and grappling. Chris Barnett's not going to be trying to take him down. I just think he's going to look to hold Chris Barnett a lot. And the smaller octagon might make it hard for Chris Barnett to get away. It also might make it easier for Chris Barnett to get a hold of Ben Rothwell. But Ben Rothwell has not been knocked out by anybody in the UFC since Cain Velasquez in his UFC debut. So for me to predict Chris Barnett to do that, it's kind of wild. But I do think that's how Chris Barnett can win this fight. Short notice, though. Ben Rothwell should be able to grind a boring decision. If I'm being honest, I think that's how this fight ends. So Ben Rothwell, no way I'm betting him. If not anything, I'm taking a shot at the dog at plus 260, minus 350 for Ben Rothwell. Money has come in on him. The Ben Rothwell of the last 3 or 4 fights has not been that impressive. And Chris Barnett coming in hungry really could put himself in harm's way and end up costing him the fight, but it also could win him the fight. I'm excited to see Chris Barnett. Maybe I just want to have a reason to bet him, but I'm not betting Ben Rothwell at minus 350. I think that's ridiculous. No, thank you. We are to the featured prelim. This is an outstanding fight at featherweight between Ricardo Ramos and Bill Algeo. Ricardo Ramos, the Brazilian 25-year-old, fighting at 145 now, 5'9", 72-inch reach, fighting on a China team as well as Team Alpha Male. So definitely he's working on the grappling and the wrestling all the time. 25 continues to get better, has been in the UFC for quite a while now. Had a fight on Dana White's Looking for a Fight, which he won over Alfred Kasakian. Kasakian, we know from Bellator now. He's fought a lot of good guys. Also lost to Sean O'Malley on the Contender Series. Had a win over Tanaka back in 2017 at his debut. So he was 21 years old for his debut. Spinning elbow finish of Zahabi. A really impressive win of Kwei Hong Kang, which showed me a lot, but was a split. But Kwei Hong Kang, very good fighter. Lost to Saim Nurmagomedov. Ended up beating Journey Newsome and Edward Gargoni. Not really too notable. And then got ground and pound finished against Lerone Murphy. These two were supposed to fight back in April. Ricardo Ramos did have COVID, however. So if you've listened to any of my breakdowns before, I'm very cautious on picking fighters coming off COVID, particularly when it's a month or so out. His fight in April 17th was canceled. So it's only been rescheduled a month. And he's going against a guy in Bill Algeo, Senor Perfecto, 14-5. Lost to Brendan Longhane on the Contender Series, but wasn't put away. That is a fight famously where it was a very good back-and-forth fight where Brendan Longhane went for a takedown towards the end, and then Dana didn't give him his contract. And now we've seen how good Longhane's done, getting a lot of finishes, including of Shaman Marias. So really a good experience for Algeo to get under his belt there, in my opinion. Ended up taking on Tim Dooling, winning that fight. Lost to Ricardo Lamas coming in on short notice, but really gave his entire account, fought him so close. It was Ricardo Lamas' final fight of his career as well. So I think Lamas knew that he put everything he could into that fight. Algeo was very close at several times to finishing. Also, Ricardo Lamas, I just think going from Ricardo Lamas to Ricardo Ramos is quite a step down in competition as well for Algeo. So I think he showed that huge confidence boost in the following fight as well, where he took on Spike Carlisle and fought him perfectly, getting a decision win. Yeah, I think this is a really interesting fight. I think on the feet, Ramos has the slight advantage. 6 foot versus 5'9", slight reach advantage for Algeo as well. 31 years old, almost 32. The time is now for Bill Algeo. And I think that the pressure and cardio can really pay dividends for Bill Algeo as this fight goes on. I think this is a very good fight. I think it's a competitive one, possible fight of the night, if I'm being honest. I'm going to take Bill Algeo, though. I do like Bill Algeo's ability to mix it up and keep this fight on the feet and be the one who's pressuring, higher volume. I think he learned a lot from the Ricardo Lamas fight, showed it in the Spike Carlisle fight, and I think he continues to show it here against Ricardo Lamas. Minus 125 for Algeo. I like the value there, and I think that this is a good opportunity for Algeo to really establish himself in the featherweight division. Definitely is on people's maps after his performance on short notice against Ricardo Lamas. So now we are to the main card, and the main card is, of course, a 6-fight main card taking place here on ESPN. Jack Hermansson, Edmund Shabazian at 185 starts out the main card in a hell of a main card fight. Edmund Shabazian coming back from his first loss of his career to Derek Brunson, a fight that I did have Derek Brunson in. Derek Brunson ended up really just surviving the early onslaught. And after that, Edmund did slow down significantly. Looks to me like he's much better at being the hammer than the nail. We saw chinks of that against Darren Stewart, where Darren Stewart was able to get the takedowns. Darren Stewart lost a split decision to Edmund Shabazian. But when Shabazian started getting control, he had a lot of trouble regaining that control. And I think that we saw a similar thing against Derek Brunson. He started out very strong, but when Derek Brunson got to takedown, started returning the fire, we started to see Shabazian really freeze up and then eventually wilt. So, that head kick finish of Tavares was very impressive. It was in 2 minutes. The rear naked choke of Marshman, very impressive in 1 minute. Elbow and punches finish of Bird, very impressive, 1 minute. All of these are first-round finishes he's had before this. I really am curious to see how he comes back. He's still fighting on Glendale Fighting Club. Not sure how great that is for his career at this point. Obviously has Ronda Rousey's old coach, Edmund, whatever his name is, or Targaryen, or that's not it. I don't remember, but we all know Edmund, Ronda Rousey's old coach. That's his coach. So he's taking on the Joker, Jack Hermansson, 21-6, 32 years old, 6'1", 77-inch reach, truly a specialist. Last time out against Vettori, that was a really good fight. I will say, first and foremost, I did have Hermansson in that fight, and I think that fight was really, truly the first fight for me that showed me Vettori is that dude. Looked really good and negated the grappling and everything. Kelvin Gastelum, he got a really quick heel hook of him, so we don't exactly know what Kelvin Gastelum was showing up or how good Hermansson was. He did get knocked out by Jared Cannonier in Sweden, but Cannonier at 185 hits like a brick. Edmund also hits very hard, has very good striking, but I do think that Hermansson has shown that he can get the takedowns against most guys in this division. I think Hermansson's kind of a rarity for this division. He's truly a specialist, a grappling specialist, has some decent striking, but he's going to look to grapple, pressure, wear out Edmund, get him to the ground more, and then I think second and third round look to attack. The ground and pound is something that Jack Hermansson's gone away from these last few fights. I think we could see the ground and pound really come back. The ground and pound is a huge part for Brunson, and Hermansson has better ground and pound in my opinion. Hermansson's faced a much higher level of competition. Hermansson also has shown the ability to be both the hammer and the nail. As far as I can see with Edmund Shabazian, he is only good being the hammer. So you can come out and gets a 2 minute head kick finish of Jack Hermansson. I can be like, okay, I don't want to bet against that, but I mean, that is how I see Shabazian winning. It's hard for me to see Shabazian fighting through and getting a decision win. The split decision against Stewart, he gave up several takedowns. Hermansson is miles better as a takedown guy, better ground and pound than a Brunson. I think that Hermansson gets back on track here in Shabazian. I'm not sure what Shabazian does, but 11-2. Not getting any favors going from Derek Brunson to Jack Hermansson. I think this is, in my opinion, it's a tougher fight. I know Brunson's on a roll right now, but I think Hermansson is one of the better guys at 185 that a lot of people don't put enough respect on. So I'm going to take Hermansson, show off that ground and pound, round 2 TKO. And, man, I wanted Hermansson to give me a steal, but minus 160. Still a good parlay piece, in my opinion. I think he can finish or take the decision. And, we will see. Great way to open that card. Next fight, 125, David Dvorak versus Rolian Paiva. Paiva is a very exciting Brazilian striker, 20-3. He's had a little bit of a tough go of it in the UFC so far, but still 25 years old, 5'8", 70-inch reach for a 125. I really like to see that. He has had 2 straight wins as well, finished Mark De La Rosa, which you'd like to see, and then took on Zalgis Zumagulov. Really good back and forth stand-up affair. One thing about Rylan is that he is a wild striker, but yeah, he is a very wild striker, but also gets hit quite a bit. I apologize to do this to y'all, but I will be right back. I just have to step away for 1 second, literally 30-second break. All right, apologize everybody. Sorry about that delay there, but joys of running the solo operation while also running a full-time business, while also trying to cover 3 MMA cards. Yeah, we're all busy. I get it. But as I was saying, Roland Paiva, really like his offensive striking. Obviously, that overhand right against Mark De La Rosa, very good. He does, however, take far too many shots as he's giving them. And, that is just something I think that just Zalgis Zalmagoulis is about the level of guy who can get away with that against. But David Dvorak, I've really liked what I've seen out of this guy. Perfect example of a guy who waited until he was fully ready to enter the UFC and turned down several opportunities ahead of time. 19-3 now, 28 years old. 5'5", 68-inch reach, so similar reach for these two guys. And Dvorak can really do it all. He is truly a well-rounded mixed martial artist. I think he is one of the most well-rounded in this division. I really like what I've been able to see out of him. 2-0 in the UFC, 2 decisions over Bruno Silva and Jordan Espinosa. I get Jordan Espinosa is not the most highly rated guy by a lot of people, but I do think the way he looked and the amount of skills he was able to show in those 2 fights, really impressive. Prior to UFC, rear naked chokes, KO finishes, punch finishes, really a variety of finishes as well, arm bars. And then, showing as he's gotten into the UFC, as you get into that higher echelon, you're not going to be able to get those finishes. And he still able to maintain a very good gas tank, a very diverse range of attacks here. I think technically he is the better striker. I think Paiva can make this a wild fight maybe and try to blitz, a little bit of Dvorak, but Dvorak he's rock solid. Two of his 3 losses are to Philip Masek, whoever that is. But since then, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 fight win streak for David Dvorak. And he, faced a decent range of competition before getting to the UFC. He's now taking the proper steps up from Bruno to Espinosa to now Paiva. I think this will be his biggest test of his UFC debut, but I do think this is one that Dvorak should be able to pass with flying colors. I think this is a possible first finish just due to how Paiva goes, but either way, I think this is a very good fight, back and forth, highly entertaining. Dvorak at -150, I love that value. I feel that's a very, very good value. You compare with Bill Algeo right off the bat for a decent +2 to +300 parlay from those two. I think you can also look to pair him up with some of your other confident picks from the other previous cards I've broken down here. But Dvorak is one of my favorite low value favorites at -150. So against Paiva, I like that spot for him quite a bit. This is another one. Dvorak is another one I like in this fight right here with Felicia Spencer against Norma Dumont. I am a Felicia Spencer fan. I will say that first and foremost. But breaking down the immortal Norma Dumont. Coming off a win of Ashley Evans Smith, where she missed weight by 5 pounds, but did look really good. In the stand-up range, Megan Anderson was her debut. She also just didn't quite look ready for that fight. Got KO'd pretty quickly. We obviously know with Felicia Spencer, she was able to submit Megan Anderson rather quickly. But yeah, 5-1, had a decision, had a majority decision prior to making the UFC against Marion Marias. We did see Marion Marias last fight out against Kayla Harrison, and it's hard to judge it, but I mean, Kayla Harrison put her away inside of a minute. So I'm not sure how great Marias really is, and that was a majority decision win. I just don't really know. Norma was trying to make it to 135 for a reason. She now has to go to 145 against one of the only 145ers, legit 145ers there is, and Felicia Spencer. Felicia Spencer was getting ready to take on Danielle Wolf. Something happened with Danielle Wolf. I don't think that the adjustment is that different from Danielle Wolf to Norma Dumont, except for a slight amount of experience. But yeah, I mean, Felicia Spencer went to a decision with Amanda Nunes, which not many people can really say. Destroyed Zarin Ferran. I think that her wrestling and her grappling are just going to be too much and such a clear advantage here. I think that, frankly, Norma gets blown out of the water here. I like Felicia Spencer quite a bit in this fight. Grapple and rear naked choke round 1. Why not? And this is one that I'm kind of shocked by the odds. -160. Pair that up for me right away with Dvorak. Pair it up. Felicia is a pretty big parlay piece for me this weekend. Just at a -160, it can really take a lot of those parlays to higher levels. The common opponent, the level of competition Norma's faced, how Norma's really looked in her fights. I like Felicia Spencer all day in this fight. Felicia has been preparing for this fight. Norma took it on pretty short notice, and I do wonder if she makes an error in thinking, oh, I have an extra 10 pounds. I don't need to worry about my conditioning or whatnot. But Felicia Spencer, -170, I think that's a steal. And get it before it's at -200, because that number should be continuing to go towards Felicia if I had to anticipate. But who knows? Maybe people know something I don't. It happens all the time. Third from the top, 265. Don't know why this is third from the top, people. Let me take a sip of water. Sorry, the dogs are starting to get excited. So apologize for a little bit of noise here, but there's not much time left. So Justin Taffa, Jared Vanderaa. Jared Vanderaa, I've been very not impressed with. I don't know how he got a UFC contract. And, he beat Harry Hunsucker. That's how. That's his only win. That was his only win with the UFC. He called out Sergey Spivak and then absolutely got mollywopped by him. But said, I don't feel like myself. I feel off. Whether it was the jitters, whether it was a bad weight cut, whether it was something he ate, there are a lot of things that can, play a factor in a bad performance like that, I'm sure. So he could come into his fight and really look like a totally different guy. He's got decent wrestling. He's got a good top game, decent stand-up. And he's taking on a guy who, is about as one-dimensional as it gets here in Justin Taffa. Justin Taffa coming off that terrible or not terrible, but just like a not from a technical standpoint, terrible fight against Carlos Felipe, where they decided to just be boxers and stand in the middle of the octagon, throw shots at each other. And Justin Taffa, low volume, ended up costing him. Felipe just threw more volume, not more impactful shots, just more volume. And before that, Justin Taffa was fighting Juan Adams, is fighting on a prelim of a Fury FC card recently. So that's where Juan Adams is. He did put him away, but again, it was low output. And then he lost. He got absolutely obliterated by Jorgen De Castro, who's another guy who came off with the Contender Series, struggled a lot, but had a highlight of Taffa. So frankly, that's what I'm a little bit worried about here with Taffa again. I'm not sure if I can really count on Justin Taffa. He is, for the most part, a stand-up fighter exclusively, throws some low volume at points, can knock out a lot of people, definitely can knock out Vanderaa, but Vanderaa really struggled with the takedowns, and, maybe he learns a lot from a very, very, poorly prepped debut and comes out and looks like a totally different guy. I just, I kind of go back and forth on this, but and I might really regret this. I got no one to hide behind either. I'm going to take Vanderaa to get a really kind of similar type of gross decision to Felipe, but maybe Vanderaa uses some of that Team Quest wrestling and gets a few takedowns, and I just can't imagine Taffa has any form of a ground game. I'm going to take Jared Vanderaa. I know that last performance against Sergey Spivak was not impressive. I get even against Harry Hunsucker, he was taking quite a few shots before he won, and we've seen how Harry Hunsucker does. I just don't have faith that Taffa can put this together. They keep putting Taffa on main cards for some reason. This fight should be like the opener. I don't know why it's third from the top, but I don't know. I got a feeling, Vanderaa even said in the corner during the fight, I feel off. Maybe he says that again in this fight, and it's just like, no, bro, you're not off. You just shouldn't be in the UFC. That could very well be the case, but fuck it. It's 2.5 hours into me talking to basically myself, aside from the first 20 minutes with Fernando Padilla. Let's take Jared Vanderaa, people. Why not? Jared Vanderaa, I got at a plus 150. I'm not betting this. This is dog or pass. My official pick, though, is Vanderaa. I just think that Taffa, I'm not sure Taffa should be here. I'm just think low volume, one-dimensional, potential gas issues. There's a lot of red flags here that keep me from trusting Taffa as a favorite. 11-5 versus 4-2. There's a serious experience edge to Vanderaa, and if it's the Vanderaa who's there against Sergey Spivak, obviously no. But I'll take the dog. But this is dog or pass in my opinion. I don't think Taffa is a decent favorite. Is wise investment from anybody at this point. And now we're to the co-main event, 115 division. Team Oyama product Carla Esparza taking on Yan Xiaonan. And Carla Esparza got to talk to Fernando Padilla, current now UFC featherweight. Team Oyama product really has talked about how he's been able to see how Carla has been able to physically be preparing for this fight. If you follow Carla on Instagram, you can see she's really taking her conditioning to another level now, and she's the OG of the strawweight division here. First strawweight champion, 33 years old, approaching 34, 5'1", 63-inch reach out of Team Oyama, the Cookie Monster. She's one of the best wrestlers in the division. She knows that's what she wants to go in there and do. She's on a 4-fight win streak currently, so she's really been able to piece it together since losing to Tatiana Suarez in a split to Claudia Gadea. Since then, she's got a win over Verna Jandaroba, a win over Alexa Grasso, Michelle Watterson, and then a split over Marina Rodriguez in July of last year. I do think, if I'm being honest, Marina won that fight, but also Carla kept taking her down and took some serious damage and kept working her way through it. So showed me quite a bit in that fight. But with Carla, it's takedowns, control, rinse and repeat. Yan Xiaonan, the 31-year-old, 13-1 out of China, 5'5", 65-inch reach as well. Had a very impressive win, decision win over Claudia Gadea, who fights everybody close. Claudia was unable to get her down, and then we really saw Zhao's powerful, good striking. I get it. You look at Zhao, Yang Jinan, and in her 5 fights in the UFC, all decisions. Actually, 6 fights in the UFC, all decisions. A decision over Kaylin Curran, Viviane Pereira, Suri Kondo, Angela Hill, Carolina Kovacevic, and then over Claudia Gadea. I frankly think the Claudia Gadea win was her best win. Her striking is very well controlled. She has really good cardio, very good power. I get the finishes have not been coming inside the UFC. She has quite a few finishes outside the UFC. I think that measured, controlled striking is a huge key to how you beat Carla Esparza, distance control, and obviously takedown defense. Yang Jinan checks every single one of those boxes for me. I think this is a very close competitive fight. I think that it will look similar to the Marina Rodriguez fight, but with Yang Jinan not accepting the bottom quite to the ability that Marina Rodriguez did. A few times where Marina accepted the bottom, she was landing really good elbows, more of the damage, but we know how MMA judging goes. So I like Yao Jinan in this fight. I do really respect, obviously, Team Oyama right now. So I do expect that Claudia is coming into this fight with a very, very sound game plan. 31, 32 versus 33. Both these girls had a very key part of their career. The winner of this fight is in line for a title shot. Carla has really been working towards it. 4 straight wins versus Yao Jinan, who has 6 straight wins in the UFC. Slight experience edge and slight grappling edge, as well as level of competition edge to Carla. But I'm going to take Yao Jinan, the very slight -125 favorite. I think this should be close to a pick'em. I think it will be close. If Yao Jinan gets a finish, watch out. She's next in line for a title shot. But otherwise, I think a decision is in line for Yang Jinan. I think she prevents the takedowns in at least 2 of 3 rounds and gets a unanimous decision win for Yang Jinan, and gets herself into the mix at 115. Whew. We finally made it. If you're joining me in the middle, if you've been with me from the beginning, no matter what, I appreciate you. We take our final sip of the water. The water's gone. Main events here. We are in the bantamweight division, 5 rounds. Again, all of these fights are at the Apex. No crowd, smaller octagon. More finishes probably are coming in this smaller. And especially with these 2 strikers here, we got Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt. No love. 12-3. 29 years old, approaching 30 years old, taking on the 33, nearly 34, Rob Font out of Boston. I will start with Cody No Love Garbrandt. Interesting interesting little career he's had lately. Team Alpha Male as well as Strong Style he's fighting out of. Coming off of that right hook victory last June of Rafael Assunção, where he caught him at the buzzer of the first round, where Assunção, one of the only times I've seen Assunção kind of lose his composure and his technique and kind of throw caution to a win. And he paid for it with that buzzer beater at the end of round 2. It's a really good fight before that. Cody Garbrandt was on a 3-fight losing streak, being finished by punches in pretty similar ways in all 3 of those fights, twice to TJ Dillashaw and then once to Pedro Munoz. That right hand is there for people, and it has been repeatedly. We have not seen the version of Cody Garbrandt that came against Dominic Cruz, except for the Dominic Cruz fight. Other than that, there just seems to be points where Cody Garbrandt loses a little bit of his composure and focus. And before those 3 fights he lost, he had gotten away with it. Now, when opponents are catching him, they're catching him and putting him away. And Rob Font is a really dangerous guy, 18-4, 33 years old, 5'8", 71.5-inch reach. Boston Mass obviously had that really impressive KO finish at the end of last year of Marlon Moraes. Although Marlon Moraes was coming off of a KO of Corey Sandhagen 2 months before that, so there might have been some issues, but still, Rob Font looked really good. People forget Rob Font had a huge win over Ricky Simone, where he really showed off that takedown defense and everything like that. And then a win over Sergio Pettis, now Bellator bantamweight champion Sergio Pettis, where he really cruised in that one. He's shown he's not just a finisher. He also can piece together the decision. My thing with Rob Font is he takes a lot of time off in between each fight. We got another guy who he had 1 fight in 2017, 3 in 2018, which was great. It'd be great to see more of that. Then 1 in 2019, 1 in 2020, and now his first of 2021. He has been looking really sharp coming back from these. His boxing is really crisp, really good. Has some underrated grappling, has tricky grappling, and has a really good gas tank as well. The reach and I think composure play a huge role. Another thing I'm really not too crazy about with Mr. Font or with Garbrandt is that he was really debating going down to 125. And I'm just not, first of all, I wouldn't have been crazy about that move for Cody's chin, but even at 135, I'm not sure how strong Cody's chin and cardio hold up. And we just haven't seen that Dominic Cruz version of Cody in quite a while here. So, this is a really interesting fight. I think it's a very close fight. I do think there's going to be a finish within 5 rounds on one side, but if there's not, I feel the 5 rounds, although Cody Garbrandt is the former champion and has that 5-round masterpiece over Dominic Cruz, I feel the 5 rounds is an advantage to Rob Font. I think that his volume, his distance control movement could really play a key role. So, I'm going to go with Mr. Rob Font, Boston's own, to get this one, get a 3rd round TKO finish. I'm a big fan of 2nd round TKO finishes. I've been betting a lot of 2nd round props. Going to bet the 3rd round prop this week on Mr. Font. I think that he catches him with one of those right hands and puts him away. I know he doesn't fight a lot, but when he does, he seems to be ready. 33 years old. The time is now. And Cody Garbrandt, the flirting with flyweight, the amount of, the ability, I think, for Rob Font to maybe draw out the brawl and stretch out that gas tank could be there. I don't know. I just got a feeling about Rob Font. It's a really closely. I love when a main event is a pick'em. This is a pick'em, -115, both sides. If you like Cody, I think that Cody inside the distance is not a bad decision just to get the juice. But for Rob Font, I like him at that price. I'll probably put him in a few parlays as well. But we've made it. We made it to the end of a triple MMA card betting breakdown show. At the beginning of it, if you weren't with us, I was able to interview Fernando Padilla as well, featherweight new signee of the UFC, coming off an elbow KO finish. 6'1", 24-year-old, 14-4, Team Oyama featherweight. You're going to know the name Fernando Padilla. Go check it out. He is a super cool dude. He's going to be on here much more. Just a really good guy, and I wish him all the best. And then we had the LFA breakdown, which I'll be adding the timestamps to, so you can navigate through that. About 40 minutes in, about an hour and 40 minutes, or about an hour and a half in or something, is the Bellator. Well, actually, 20 minutes in is the LFA breakdown, 46 minutes in is the Bellator breakdown, and then an hour and 40 minutes in is the UFC breakdown. I will be providing all those timestamps, but I am here for you guys. Reach out to me anytime. Aaron the Dog Guy on Instagram if you want to chat, or if you have any betting advice, looking for parlays. Piece them together through these 3 cards for sure. And before we go, I will just go through one more time my picks for the UFC card, and then we will bid a farewell, and I will relax for a second. I got Damir Ismagulov. I got Damir Hadzovic. I've got Joshua Kulabau. I've got Bruno Silva. I've got Claudio Silva. I've got Ben Rothwell, but not super confident. I got Bill Algeo. I got Jack Hermanson, David Dvorak, Felicia Spencer, Jared Vandera, Jan Janal, and Rob Font. So technically, Rob Font is now an underdog, and Jared Vandera. So those are my 2 underdogs for the UFC card this week. I also have a few underdogs, such as Alfie on Bellator. But at nearly 3 hours, 3 breakdowns, 1 fantastic prospect interview of Fernando Padilla. If you join me for all of this, you are truly my kind of person, and I appreciate you. Leave the comment down below so I know I can shout you guys out on the next podcast. But until next week, Aaron the Dog is out. For Aaron the Dog, Aaron the Dog is out. Seriously, thank you all for, if anybody joined me for any or part of this 2-hour, 40-minute MMA extravaganza, thank you. You will not find this anywhere else, and I will not probably do this again. But we do what we got to do. We got to pull it off, and I'm here to help you guys, and thank you all for checking out the breakdowns. I'll be back next week with whatever breakdowns. They'll probably be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday around 3:30. But for Aaron the Dog, keep taking care of each other out there and keep cashing those bets. Thank you all for joining me so much. I love you all.